know we haven't talked UFC since October, so we're going to recap a little bit of the November fights and, of course, catch you up with everything that's happened in December. It's been a great 2 months for MMA and UFC fans in particular, so really excited about that. We've also got our end of the year awards coming today, so really excited to see what you guys think. But just kind of looking back on some of the top moments of 2020, we've got our breakout stars of the year, our fighter of the year, and then we're going to do fight of the year. I'm sure we'll talk about some of the best KOs and subs along the way as well. And then, of course, as you can see, we've got a very special guest on here today. Young Matt Metz up here joining us. Welcome to the show, Matt. Yeah, so we graduated high school in 2006, and I guess kind of, Matt, what you been up to since then, man?
Oh, man. So Keith went on to play his, college ball stint there. I went on to play mine, went to Kentucky Wesleyan for a year, came back home, started fighting, started training, started actually fighting in 2009. June 2009 was my first fight. And then I finished my career out, retired in April 2016. It's a long time, a lot of training, a lot of different experiences. So
I know we played football together. Did you wrestle in high school a little bit too?
I did not. Several of my friends, like Tyler Voth and those guys, every single year would be like, "You got to come out. You got to come out. You'd enjoy it." All this stuff, and I was just like, "I'm not cutting weight." Period. Like, it's just not. It sounds like the dumbest thing to try to play football and gain weight, and then on the flip side of that, I'm cutting 5-10 pounds a week, and yeah. So, unfortunately, if I had known what I was going to do in the future, I probably would have wrestled a little bit. But hindsight.
Yeah, you were so you were training in Lexington at Four Seasons, right?
No, actually, I trained at a place called Reaction MMA.
Okay,
it's out now in Nicholasville. I have trained at Four Seasons before, but that was before our gym got started and everything else. But there really aren't that many gyms still to this day around here to train at. But Reaction MMA.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, what is the pulse, or like what is the scene like in the Lexington or Central Kentucky area for fighting?
It's actually taken a step back since I got out of the sport. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just less popular overall, but fewer gyms, fewer training partners, fewer events around the state. Obviously, that's taken a hit this year for everything that we're going through. But locally, I guess one success story would be a person from Henderson, Kentucky, who I know. He's actually been fighting in the UFC. He got his first 2 fights this year. So it's hard enough to get a fight in the UFC, and then he got his shot in the most. You got to be ready to go when your name's called. So Nate Maness is that guy. So
okay.
That's actually, awesome. I was going to ask you who that was.
Yeah, he's a good dude, man. He's every time I've met him, he actually was like started pro fighting after me, and like just kind of you watched him come up through the ranks and really make his mark. So it's fun to see him. He's rattled off a couple wins now in the UFC, so it's pretty fun to watch.
That's awesome. Kentucky boy in the UFC. That's pretty
go.
Cool. Yeah,
it's been a while. It's been a few 8 years or so.
Man,
I remember we had Junie Browning on, and that's kind of the last local-ish kind of guy I can remember. But I kind of going back to what you said about the scene kind of falling off a little bit in recent years. I feel like it was kind of peaking around that time, at least in the Lexington, Central Kentucky area. What do you think kind of the factors like? Do you think people are just doing other things or not? Like what's going on there? Because it seems like globally and across the country, UFC is exploding, and MMA in general has been really, really exploding over the past decade and a half. So I wonder why. Any idea what's going on there locally?
I wish I knew. I guess across the region, if you kind of look at how everything's been structured, not that many gyms. Some people retiring, some people moving to other places. And then if you look just a little bit north of us, where Juan's at, Rich Franklin and George Gurgel were training up there. We were affiliates with that gym, so we'd go up there and train. Well, Rich took that job with One FC, and that's located in Asia. I think China, but he's he's gone and done that thing. So I guess even the bigger gyms, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like even those gyms where Dustin Hazlett was up there, and that's actually, you know, I'll get flamed or something if this is seen across a wide range of things. But Dustin Hazlett's definitely from our area and made it to the UFC too. So, but no, I think number one, and is just brutally honest, the money's not that good if you're not top 5 UFC.
Right.
It can be a tough road.
Man, yeah. I can imagine that would be very, very difficult because I mean, you put all the time and effort into training and studying and, you know, practicing martial arts, and then all of a sudden, you know, you get that fight and you're all pumped up, and then, you know, say you get the victory and you see the paycheck and it begins to be like, oh God, man, I put a lot into this, you know. But
yeah, so you get the victory and you got a cut on your head and they don't bring a suture kit to the actual event, which has happened to me.
Wow.
And they're like, hey man, do you want to hop in the ambulance? And I'm like, no, I literally just got paid enough to cover that ambulance. Like I need to put like a butterfly thing on here and just let me roll. Get out of here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That was my last, actually, fun story. That was my last fight. I was in Harlan, Kentucky. I could not find a fight to save my life in Las Vegas. Flew back here, got enough money to pay for my flight, my training camp, like all that. I was probably profiting like maybe $600. Get out there, fight this dude in his hometown, get like a cut in the second round, fought the rest of the 5 rounds. And then literally get done with the fight, and I'm waiting in the back, and the EMS comes up to me and is like, hey man, do you want to just hop in the truck? And I'm like, no. How are you guys going to sew me up? And he's like, we don't have a suture kit, so we're sorry. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll just like put some bandages on this bad boy and try to keep it clean. And went home. And so the next day I had a doctor from St. Joe who I know put some Dermabond on it for me, and we were good. But
that's pretty intense, man. That's pretty intense, especially coming all that way. Jeez, man.
20 minutes waiting backstage. Like they check you out, you know, they feel on your face and make sure you don't have any bone breaks that are, you know, catastrophic. Mm-hmm. And then they let you go back and hang out, and they come back and try to see me after they had seen this other fighter. And just sat there with a open sore on my face for 30 minutes waiting for them to come sew it up.
You know, it's crazy you say that, because I mean, I'm thinking just as an overall like event production standpoint, right? I can totally see something like that going down if you just don't have the budget to put on, you know, for instance, like, I mean, I've thrown some shows where I've knowingly decreased my budget so much just so I can, you know, just so I can make a profit. And right. I've, you know, I'll have an artist come in and for instance, you know, pick them up in a personal car rather than a rental, you know, just little things like that. And then you could tell the artists already know, oh, damn, man, this is going to be this kind of show. All right, well, you know, or take them to some, you know, small little dingy venue or you know, dive bar or whatever it may be. So I could totally see that going on. That's interesting. But it's different though, because we're not playing with people's lives when we put on a concert.
Even though I was in Harlan, Kentucky, and I apologize to anybody that, you know, if I'm crapping on your hometown there, but I was in Harlan, and these dudes did not have one like just a needle and thread that was like they could. I was confused. Yeah.
Y'all can't go over to Michael's and just get like a spool real quick and stitch me up.
Literally anything would be better than me just sitting here and letting my cut get infected, which it did.
Oh man.
Yeah. Underneath the Dermabond, it was like all icky looking. It was bad.
Oh man.
Ooh, oh man.
Yeah,
man. What's
but overall, that being said, that had nothing to do with the Kentucky Boxing and Wrestling Commission. They're fantastic people. Even though I don't need to sweet talk them anymore, they're really good people. So,
okay, right.
So
right on.
So I guess I've got a couple just like chronological filling in the pieces here. Like I guess from playing football in high school, I know you did track as well. Like kind of what got you into the gym to train those first few times, and like when did you realize like, okay, this is cool, I want to take a fight, and then kind of where did it go? Like, how did you go from Lexington to Las Vegas? Like, what happened in there?
So, yeah, I know a lot to unpack. So, I came back from Owensboro, came to Lexington, and met some dudes who were playing pretty physical flag football. And I was bored. You know, I was literally, it was winter break. I was drinking a ton, like on the weekends and even on the weekdays, like with my buddies that were from Lexington, you know, just doing all
Been
the
there.
wrong things.
Mhm.
Yeah, right. Like it's fun while you're doing it and you're in the moment and all that stuff. And then you're just like, what the hell am I doing? So started playing flag football. I met this guy named Rob Nickerson, who is the quarterback of the team. And he was a super like introverted guy around us. I don't know why. But we started talking about movies one day while we're waiting for our game to start. And I was like, man, we're going to this movie. And he was like, all right, whatever. So I got his number, text him that night, like, hey man, we're going to this movie. And literally we would drive from Lexington to Cincinnati to play in this league, like played on the river in the wintertime. It was freezing cold. So we like get done with this long day of football. I forced this dude to go to, and I know it sounds like, I guess I should say, it wasn't a romantic event. We were just friends, right? So we were like,
just to be clear,
dude, let's quit being a shut-in. Like, let's go to a movie. Go to the movie. Next thing I know, he's like, man, if you want to come, I know you lift weights. If you want to come to the apartment gym, like I'm training for a fight, and I'm like, training for a fight? Who is this guy? You know, it sounds like a fairy tale to me because I didn't even really understand how it worked. What went into it. I didn't know what an armbar was. I had watched fights before, but really when I was watching it, couldn't tell you what was going on. Met up with this dude at his gym. I lifted weights a couple times and then he convinced me to try to like do cardio weightlifting instead of like, you know, more football, like bodybuilding type of lifts.
Right.
And then that turned into, hey man, can I rep this armbar on you? And I'm like, I guess so. I don't know. Will you break my arm? Like, am I going to be able to use my arm? So him repping stuff on me turned into like, now we're in his garage punching on a bag and he's showing me how to throw punches. And so I really wanted to box. I thought it was more safe than fighting and all this other stuff. I don't know why. It's literally no safer. If not, it's probably maybe worse for you. I don't know. But so we started.
That's a common misconception. A lot of people think just because, you know, you can kick and punch in MMA and there's smaller gloves that it's more dangerous, but really the repetitive subconcussive impact of the accumulation of so many punches in boxing.
Yeah.
There's an argument that does worse long-term damage than the just, you know, the KO that gets you taking less in MMA.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, I think our bodies are made to turn off the lights, right? So if you put that extra padding on there and it doesn't turn off the lights, your body's just in danger. So you're getting trauma, you're getting head trauma, you're getting your brain knocked around, but you're not turning off the lights. So that's a defensive mechanism, right? Like when an animal knocks you out in the wild, like they might not mess with you anymore. But if you stay up and keep trying to attack that person or animal or whatever, they're going to keep attacking you. But yeah, so boxing, I was really interested in boxing. Then I started grappling a little bit more, whether it was him repping on me or him just showing me a move here and there to be nice, because I was spending my time letting him I was a dummy for him, you know? And then I went to his fight, watched him fight, and I was like, this is the coolest thing. I have to at least try it once. I don't want to make a career of this. I just want to train really, really hard and see how good I can get. And then I'll take an amateur fight. And then if it's fun and it's something I want to do, I'll do it. So I trained for another year and a half after that, which is really uncommon for amateur fighters, and took a fight against our like rival gym, which was actually Four Seasons. And went to their place, picked their biggest, like strongest amateur guy, and beat him in my first fight. So
let's go.
It was a good time.
That's awesome. Yeah,
That's man.
Sweet.
Man, and that's funny that you mentioned like him training with you and just wanting to do like roll arm bars with you. Like my brother, Brian, he's my second oldest brother, but he's a lot older and bigger and stronger than me. And he was an Army combatives instructor.
Oh yeah.
They used to train with Matt Hughes overseas, and like I would just be brushing my teeth in the bathroom and he would come up and just like choke me out for fun. Like you never knew what was coming. So I definitely can relate to that on kind of a brotherly level for sure.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, I'm really interested to hear about like what brought you to Vegas and how you got out there. I mean, obviously the fighting game, but you know, what that experience was like. I mean, that, you know, we were talking a little bit off air, and that's exactly, you know, where I want to reside. You as soon as I can get out there. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
what was that like out there?
So Vegas is you probably visited there, I assume.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's a completely different place. There's a lot of opportunity for someone like yourself who's in the entertainment business. That's a good place to be. But I actually enjoyed living out there for other reasons. Like I didn't go to the Strip that often unless I had friends in town. I trained a lot, obviously, and we would go hiking. We would go to Red Rock Canyon, which is just west of the city there. Excuse me. And
one of the coolest concert venues in the world. Sorry.
Oh,
no, that's Colorado.
Colorado.
That's a different Red Rocks. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why they can still like have a national park and it be named that, but either way. So we lived on the southwest side of town, and there was a mountain literally right beside of our house. Like I don't know how to explain it. It's basically Vegas is in a valley. The Strip attracts a ton of jobs, right? We all know that. And now the football team, and then it's got a lot of industry there. And then you go out just outside of that Strip, and it's like it doesn't even exist. I mean, you walk into the gas station, there's still slot machines. That's weird. And there's people in there. You can find somebody in there 24 hours a day playing the slot machine. It's the craziest thing. But yeah, there's a lot to do there. Vegas is super cool. And I ended up there to try to push my fight career forward. So living in Lexington, and this is, I would tell all fighters who live here or live around here, if you're not taking your camps to a bigger city or to a place with more training partners, at least go try to experience that and go get those rounds in with people that are bigger and better than you. And I'll expand on that in a minute. But so living in Lexington, I kind of saw I was reaching a ceiling, or I felt like I was reaching a ceiling, and my wife was getting out of residency for pharmacy school, and she needed a full-time job. And so I kind of pinpointed a few places on the map and was like, look, if we can get interviews here, like, would you be interested in moving there? And so out of her just being a great girl, she was open to it, and we moved to Las Vegas. And she doesn't like the heat that much, but I do. And
yes.
Yeah. So we moved out there for me, did that whole thing, and it was a good time.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's one of the main reasons why I am slightly obsessed with living out there, is because just like you said, whenever you do leave the Strip, it's like it's not even there. And especially as I've gotten older, I not only like love that, but like I need that, I mean, because entertainment, especially, I mean, if I'm at a festival or if I'm at really any event, it's a 15-hour day minimum, so I mean, you need that ability to be able to turn everything off and get away from all the noise. I mean, just constantly hearing a massively loud concert. I mean, you need it, I mean, yeah, I mean, like living in Cincinnati, I've worked at 5 different venues, or 6 now. And, there was one point where just one venue, Bogarts, I had 300 shows just with that one venue in a year. Or sorry, 3 years. I take that back. Not 1 year. So it was 300 shows just at that one venue, so yeah. And Lake Mead out there, gosh, man, tell me you experienced that.
Yeah, man, I did.
Awesome.
I wish I had done more. So where I was so wrapped up with training, I didn't take advantage of the stuff that's close to there. We did go to the Grand Canyon. We did go to the dam and the lake and everything.
Okay.
But there's a lot more. Like if you do decide to take a trip out there to like check it out, let me know, and I'll try to set you up with the right people. And
definitely. Yeah. I'm looking in the Summerlin area is where I really want to. That's like the goal is to reside there. Yeah.
Very nice place.
Yeah.
We lived about 10 minutes south of there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Did you ever this is gonna sound really corny, but like, did you ever have a problem with like scorpions and like shit like that coming in your house?
No. That was one of the big things that Elise was afraid of. Like she was like, I love the place, but if there's scorpions, I'm gonna freak out. And I was like, okay, like
yeah,
I get it. So we actually moved into a new build, and out there they put these like systems in houses where you can pump in insect killer. Basically, it's inside the walls. So each year they come back, and this company hooks up a thing to this little like spigot basically on the outside of your house. They pump bug killer into the house, and that keeps away most of the bugs. That being said, you are building a habitat right on top of their habitat, and it's almost unavoidable. And they actually, I don't know if you know this or not, but we didn't really have scorpions. Were not indigenous to this country. They were brought over in palm trees from other countries. So they brought their they hung out in palm trees rather, and that's how they were in Southern Cal and desertous areas out Vegas.
Just over here dropping fun facts. Let's go.
Dropping bombs. That's what I'm here for, man. So sorry I get off track here, but no issues with scorpions. I had several friends who lived on the east side of town, and that's the older side of town, more established. And they had I was on Southwest, so like new builds, all this stuff. The scorpions hadn't quite made it to my yard yet.
Okay.
But our next door neighbor actually had some, like it was like a little family of some, and they got rid of them, but nothing else in the whole neighborhood. No other surrounding houses had any weird scorpion times.
Okay. Yeah. Cause it's the reason why I asked that. Cause I mean, as you know, obviously living out there, it's a legit thing. I mean, people are actually concerned, especially people moving out there. Get a black
light flashlight, like the black light ones.
Yeah.
You can see them pretty easily. And if they're in your landscaping isn't like here or where you guys are for that matter, there's not long grass. You got either fake grass or you got really short, easy to take care of grass. And you can see those suckers, like, if it's at night and they always come out at night, you can put a black light on them and find them pretty easily.
Okay.
That was one of the things that weirded me out the most my first time in Nevada was the fake grass. And people, it looked like, would spray paint their dead grass to where it was like this vibrant, super unrealistic green. Like, we know what you're doing over there, people.
It was weird. It's weird, man. And here's the thing, you can install this grass. It's like $5,000 for a backyard. Like, it's not cheap, but once you install it, it's there for a long time. People would install this and then the sun would hit weird on the back of their house and the sun would like melt it off the window. The sun would melt like their grass. So yeah.
This big plastic weird puddle in the middle of their yard.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, because you're right in the middle of the friggin' desert, but I'm sure the hiking out there, that's what a lot of my friends say that do live out there currently. They say the hiking is just insane. And like you said, did you ever scale that mountain that was near your house?
Yeah, man, it was cool to go up there, and there's like a cave in there, and there was a couple I believe they were high school to like college age kids that would throw some ragers up there, and we'd hear like the cops come and stuff. But no, we did some moving around that area and did some hiking. Looking back, I wish we did more because it's it's cheap, it's free. Havasu Falls is like not far from there. It's in Arizona. But yeah, it's a good place to live. I enjoyed it thoroughly. And if it hadn't been for like what Lexington brings in that we have family here and we're used to being here, I don't see us moving away from it really.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. I think like in our very first episode where we talked about the UFC, I told Keith, I said, yeah, man, I just applied to like a bunch of jobs within the UFC. So once again, Dana White, please hire me.
Right. I don't know anybody. I know like a roundabout way. I know like one person that's employed by them.
Okay.
But yeah,
man,
Joe B's wife, Megan O'Leary.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
So I don't know if I can connect you with the right people to get you hired, but I can at least connect you with the right people when you get in town to like try to have conversations.
Okay. Well, perfect. Yeah. God, man. One more reason. I didn't need any more, but one more reason to get out there. Right. I love it. I love it, man.
So MMA wise, what was the ride like? When were you in Vegas? Like how many fights did you do? When did you decide like, okay, I think this might kind of be the end of the road here? Like what went on there?
Great question. So I moved out to Las Vegas, like I said, to kind of push that forward. Then tried to find a fight within like 4 months of moving out there. I was pretty close to weight. I felt ready, felt prepared. I was getting better every day, and that's why I went out there. So I was itching to get a fight, and all these fights I would find were short notice. They were against like studs, in every sense of the word, studs. So I moved out there at 3-3. My professional record was 3-3 at the time. I took a couple short notice fights in Kentucky, and whether or not they were early calls or whatever, I don't know. But so I lost a couple fights to some good guys. Went out there and was like, oh, it'll be easy to find a fight in Vegas. They'll think I'm a pushover and they'll give me some Vegas guy. Well, they won't let you fight unless you can sell 40 tickets. And I knew about 30 people, and 20 of them were fighters, and they don't have any money, and they ain't buying tickets to go to your show.
Right.
So get out there to Vegas, 2015, and just train my butt off, train. Then I finally found the fight in Harlan that I was talking about. And halfway through that training camp, I was sparring with a guy who's not exactly the best, not the worst, but not the best. He threw the slowest, like Muay Thai type of punches and kicks, but somehow his timing was always on it. He could hit you. And I remember sparring with him, and I had a little bit of a ringing headache, and that's not a good thing in sparring. It doesn't mean you're tough. It means you're tough, obviously, if you keep sparring, but it doesn't mean make you good. So that was like 3 to 4 weeks away from when my actual fight was in Lexington is when I had this like horrible training session. I was really close to the end of the road there. I was dropping weight, and I don't know, something at night just. And I guess I can add this to the story too. I met somebody out there, and I don't want to say their name. They're a really big fighter, but they told me stories. Literally, I walked by him. He introduced himself to me. Hey, man, how are you? Nice to meet you. Are you new here? All that stuff. And I had been there for a year, or I'd been there for a while. And this dude introduces himself to me, and then I walk back by him 10 minutes later, and he stops me and tells me the same exact story. And then later on, after the training session, he tries to tell me the same exact story. And I was like, man, I got to go. It was good chatting with you, yada, yada. So it was around that time that I met this person. Then I had this awful training session where I had like a ringing headache afterwards, and I hadn't had one of these bad sparring sessions in forever. And I just couldn't sleep that night. And Elise is in the bed beside me, and she's already passed out. So I'm sitting there thinking, mind's racing. I'm like, what should I do? Should I even take this fight? Should I finish this fight? This dude's been preparing for this fight. I really want to fight this guy. Like, I want to beat him up still. This is not like, I'm not ready to quit now, but let me write down the reasons. So I pulled out my notes and I wrote down the reasons that I fight. And then I wrote down the reasons that I want, like, that make me happy. And it just, they didn't mix. I thought to myself, like, man, you can make 100K doing 30 other things. Like, you don't need to maybe make 80K in 2 fights for the UFC, and you may not ever fight again, or you may break your hand and then you're out for 6 months, and then your income is 40K for that year, and you train day in and day out for $40,000. And it's just, so basically those things stopped kind of aligning, and I realized that I could do other things without putting my, mental health in danger and body in danger. So decided to move on.
Man. Yeah, it's definitely sounds like a huge wake up call there. That's tough.
Couldn't be worse timing. Literally getting ready to go fight this dude that was juiced out of his mind. He was on all the steroids. You could tell from like looking at his Facebook pictures and stuff. And I was like, man, I don't know if this is the right thing for me, but so I talked to my wife that next day, and I was like, hey, I think I'm gonna like quit fighting. And she was like, we just moved out here. We just bought this house. 5 to 10 year plan was to stay out here and you make it. And I was like, I can keep grinding if you want, but like, I don't want to. And she's like, well, don't don't do that. So I finished the fight camp out. I literally, because of my paranoia about my health, I turned down sparring sessions with Kevin Lee.
Wow.
And which there's a lot more to that, but we don't need to get in that today. But so we had sparred before. His coach asked me to spar. I was like 2 weeks out, and I was like, Coach, love you to death, man. I want to help Kevin out, but I'm 2 weeks out from my fight. Like, we're good. He spars pretty hard. So I was like, I'm worried about number one right now. I'm not worried about Kevin's fight coming up. So yeah.
Now, what weight class did you fight at?
I fought at 155. So I walked around at like 183, 184. And then I would, over the course of the fight camp, I would get down to like 77-ish, like naturally, just training more, putting better stuff in my body. And then I would cut from the week of the fight, I would cut from like 69 to 65-ish, and then cut the rest on the 2 days prior.
Wow, man, it's so interesting to me, like, you know, the process of cutting weight and then just the dehydration, you know, process of it. I mean, what's probably the craziest thing you experienced while you were cutting weight?
Craziest thing I experienced. Man, I think the worst is, have you guys ever been like completely dried out from just being dehydrated and your vocal cords change?
Oh yeah.
I was probably close to that. I had COVID like in January, so I mean, not like officially, but I 100% had COVID. So yeah, it's probably the closest.
So basically, whenever I would cut weight and I would get down to like 58-ish, like 59, 58, below that 60 mark, my ears would start to pop, or like where you can't hear as well. I don't know how to
Oh my
explain it.
goodness.
And then my voice would get super like low and quiet because it was dried out. It was just dry. It was weird, yeah. But so that was the common thing that happened every time I cut weight. And then I found little tips and tricks to help me like get off that last, 4 pounds or whatever. But yeah, just that. And I think probably the first time I ever cut weight was probably the worst because I didn't know what to expect really. And it was a title fight and it was 5 rounds and I was nervous and all this crap. That was actually, I don't know if either of you guys were there, but that was at Whitaker Bank Ballpark, Applebee's at the time.
Yeah, where the Legends play.
I remember that. Yeah. I remember that. Okay.
Yep. So that was my first weight cut ever, and I had a freaking 5-round fight the next day. So
man,
how did that feel going into the fight after cutting weight for the first time? Were you like depleted? Did you feel you recovered the next day?
I recovered okay. Yeah, we so in the UFC they don't allow IV rehydration now, but we did. So like locally, we would just borrow a couple bags of fluids from the hospital, maybe some electrolyte bags too, and then have somebody run a line for you after you cut weight and rehydrate. So I felt pretty good. Yeah, all things considered, I think I did okay.
Now with Vegas being really, the center of, the fight game, I guess, here in the States, at least, like how was the networking, or I guess like how common was it to, roll into a gym or go to another gym and see, a superstar or, some of the bigger names? How common was that out there?
That was where, so the reason I moved out there was to get better at fighting. It wasn't to train with like, I didn't go out there and be like, I want to train with Kevin Lee. Like Kevin Lee was virtually unknown when I started training out there.
Mm-hmm.
Roy Nelson would be in there on a given day. There's a big dude right now named Blagoy Ivanov that fights for the UFC. He's a heavyweight. He would be in there day in and day out. He fought for PFL, which was World Series of Fighting at the time.
Okay.
And Johnny Nunez, Brian Caraway, Misha Tate.
Misha.
There's so many. I'm trying to think. There's so many. And I'm not just like, this isn't. So Tony Ferguson came through one day on International Fight Week. He is just as weird as you can imagine. He put sunglasses on, wrapped his hands up, and then went on the opposite side of the wall from pro practice and hit on a bag for like 20 minutes and then bounced. Like he didn't talk to anybody. He big leagued everybody in there. It was wild. Yeah. So I feel like did it
his. I'm sorry. I just want to say I feel like his training methods have led to a lack of kind of long-term sustainability. Like this year in his fights, it just looks like his body is kind of like, dude, we can't keep doing this the way we've been doing it.
I hope that he realizes that it takes a lot of self-realization when you hit a point. It takes a good coach or a good mentor to kind of guide you into that realization maybe. But I hope he learns that about himself, that it's maybe time to like either slow down or change the way you train or something. I think he needs to do something different. But no, so met a bunch of high profile people out there, trained pretty heavily. You'd see Randy Couture in there in the mornings. He trained with Gil, a guy that was a strength conditioning coach there. He would train. I'd come in at 8 a.m. Randy and his wife would be there training. Ryan Couture was his son, ran the front desk. Like me and Ryan hung out plenty of times. I helped him train for his fights. A lot of bigger name guys, obviously, compared to here. It is what it is. But the most, I think the person I remember training with the most, he went from an unknown to a known, was Street Jesus, was Jorge Masvidal.
Masvidal.
Nice.
Wow.
He
Juan's
came out
boy.
during international.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I can't say this enough. He's a hell of a guy. When he was who he was,
I knew it.
when he was who he was when I met him, he was not unknown, but he had beaten like a ton of good people, and still was at 55. He was just getting ready to make that transition to 70, I think. Big dude. We repped together, and thankfully, we were doing a low impact day that day. Thank God. He let's see, what did he do to me? He was showing me like wrestling escapes, basically. So we're on the ground. It's kind of like a high school wrestling practice, except there's no rules in terms of how you can lock your hands and so on. So he's showing me all these different wrestling escapes, and do this and don't do that. And then the coach would show us something and we both rep it. And then he would do a variation of it that I'd never seen. And I'd be like, what shit? But he told me, he's like, dude, I've been wrestling for 12, 14 years at the time, just from MMA training. He's like, and we got a good wrestling coach out of ATT. So I've learned college wrestling since I was, your age or whatever. But no, so he was one of the most down to earth people. And I don't know how to explain it to someone like you all, but there's a thing that you feel when you're rolling with somebody, like either the way that they grab you, like their hand strength, or the density of their bones, like a Yoel Romero type. This dude rubbed his shin across the back of my Achilles, not even on purpose, and it hurt. He had dense bones and hard bones. And when this dude trained, even 60%, which is what we were going like 50, 60%. If he got you in a weird spot, it was going to be uncomfortable. He knew how to put pressure in the right places. Just built differently than a lot of people.
Man, yeah, I'm huge Masvidal fan. So I just feel like he always is who he is, and I love people who are like that and appreciate him, especially people who have the amount of fame and fortune that he has. So
yeah,
it's just refreshing to hear that. That's awesome, man. And I could totally feel what you're saying. I guess in terms of like football, who hits hard and who doesn't.
Yes.
and those people, if you're not feeling 100% and you're in practice, I'm probably going to avoid that guy today because I don't want to get jacked up in practice.
It's weird, man.
Yeah.
He's not a go hard. He's a if he does a certain technique on you and he turns it up just a little bit, you're like, oh God, that's uncomfortable. I don't like that. If I was in a fight, I would try whatever I could to not even be close to here.
Dang.
I know something that I felt a lot, and I did more striking training throughout my life, just like conditioning wise, dabbed in a little Muay Thai, but I did some jiu-jitsu when I first moved to Louisville at Core Combat Sports. Love those guys over there. Helios Oneka is actually over there. They've got some great teachers and instructors, but some of the blue belts, when I would roll with them, you could feel that they were really trying hard to beat you, versus when you would roll with a purple or a black belt. Even some of the purples were bad, but the black belts every time is you could tell that they were holding back, but they were still they would still dominate me so hard. So it's I could definitely, it's okay, this guy's only going 50, 60%. So I can only imagine what it's like when he's actually going 100%. You can just you can feel that level of difference sometimes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. That's intense. So
I think along those lines, I think that's kind of a good transition point to start getting into some of our current day stuff. I'm kind of dying to speculate on some of the news that's been popping off. We haven't talked UFC in a long time. But I know I don't want to get into looking ahead too much at the beginning, but just talking Masvidal, it seems like when Juan and I last talked, it seems like Masvidal, Nate Diaz is where they were going next. Since then, it looks like it's Masvidal, Colby is 99% what's going to happen. I guess we can start with Juan and then let's start with Matt, and then we can kind of roll through. What do you think if that fight goes down? What do you think of that matchup?
It's a great question. I don't know, and I don't usually do have an opinion either way on how it's going to go. I have no idea how that fight would go, and I wish I had some sort of hot take, like, Masvidal by TKO in the first round. Colby can take so many shots. All right, so here's the thing. We just watched Masvidal and Usman fight not long ago. It was this year, right?
Right.
Masvidal's takedown defense is still top notch. Those two have trained together in some form or facet, so that's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out. People that train together, it always changes the fight, and it may not go down how you think it would. I would hope that Masvidal is going to win by either decision or TKO in like the fourth or something after just wearing them down. But I don't see a lot of advantage for Colby on top. That's my take.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because I'm always looking into different articles and stuff like and constantly watching YouTube videos and getting people's opinions, and the one thing that I feel like I hear often, obviously not from anyone from ATT, especially from the bad breakup and the bad blood that Colby has there, but I hear often that whenever they would roll, or whenever they would wrestle and spar together, that Colby would constantly get the best of them whenever it came to that. So
Yeah.
It's interesting, and I feel like I've heard Masvidal being asked that question, and he just kind of skates around it, or he just kind of as just starts talking shit or whatever, or just
Right.
calling them out to kind of avoid that. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I mean, I agree with everything you said. I'm a huge Masvidal fan, but I also respect the hell out of Colby Covington. He is a tough dude.
Yeah, he can scrap, man.
Yeah, he really can, and his output is insane. So I mean, just off a bias perspective, I've got to go Masvidal, but I do think it probably does either go the distance, or like you said, something happens late in the fourth or early in the fifth. I don't really see it being an early knockout or an early victory for either side.
I'll give you a hot take. I can see it being an early knockout for Masvidal.
Okay.
And this is a fight. If you had asked me at the beginning of the year, I would have probably said Colby pretty definitively. Colby's somebody that I hated, but I've really come around to, especially after watching his skills in the octagon. He showed so much heart in the Usman fight. That's probably where it really turned for me, because I was rooting for Usman in that fight. So I probably would have said Colby is going to press him up against the cage. He's going to wear him down, and over 5 rounds, he'll end up winning a decision. But after watching Masvidal's takedown defense and the way he was able to stay on his feet against Usman, I don't know that Colby would be able to get him down. I mean, Kamaru, I feel like, weaponizes pace almost as effectively as Colby does. And he's definitely got more power.
If not more so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing is that fighters only have so many war fights in them before their chin starts to go. And I feel like it hasn't happened yet, but I could see this being a fight where Jorge lands a clean shot early, and this is where we start to see maybe the downfall of Colby after so many battles that he's been in lately. So I'm not super confident on that, but I'll jump out on that ledge for today and make that a prediction.
And I agree with the overtraining or how many shots can you actually take over the course of a career. He's close. It's weird too, because I think it always happens. We feel like as fans that we see it happen during the fight, but it probably happened during training camp or something where they trained too closely to a not a full on concussion, but a mild concussion. And they probably trained the next day or the day after, and just, you can't, I don't know. I feel like I know a lot about that stuff. I don't want to get into it, but you should not train too closely it's just like concussion protocol with football. Your coach has to be that person that says, hey man, cut the shit. Like, why do you need to spar you can miss out on 2 sparring sessions and be just fine when it comes to fight night.
That's something that we've definitely seen is kind of the winds changing from your back when, like, I forget what Ken Shamrock's gym was called, but they used to be just like all out balls to the wall and beat the hell out of each other every practice.
The Lion's Den, is that what it was called?
Yes,
Den.
The Lion's Den.
Yeah.
But like, I know when Anthony Joshua lost to Ruiz for the first time, for example, in their first fight, there was a rumor that he had been slept during sparring within a couple of weeks before that fight. There's definitely a kind of proximity between, you know, you need a certain amount of recovery time when you do go out before you should be able to be going hard again. And you know, I think as just sports in general, we're kind of getting smarter as more data comes out.
Yeah.
But I think Juan and I have discussed that a lot with a guy like Junior Dos Santos, for example. Like, JDS is a guy I've loved watching for so many years. I love his style, but he's like, we kind of had a back and forth when he lost to Rosenstrike, because that was a pretty close battle until Junior went down. You know, he landed a couple good shots. He had won his previous fight before that and looked like he still had a little bit left in the tank.
Right.
And then Junior's last fight, it looks like that chin is gone, man.
It's a sad thing, like, to watch a legend go downhill. And I think that maybe another hot take, but I think Dana and the UFC were smart for letting Yoel Romero go. Not because of necessarily his chin, but I think once they get to a certain age, it's like, you know, he had a shot at the title. He didn't do a whole lot during that fight. Why do I give him another shot? Why do I keep going down this route when I've got all these marketable 85ers that are waiting in the wings to get big fights? So it's hard to like know when you should stop a legend from fighting. But I think that one's close too. JDS is close as well.
Yeah,
See if he makes this next round of cuts. Juan, go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I think that he is going to be one of those guys that they let go, and you know, I think he just needs to hang it up, and also I put Cowboy in there too. And I hate to see it, because I mean, it's hard not to love Cowboy, but it's just time, man. It's time, you know. And I mean, he's got a family, he's got kids. It's like, dude, you know, he looks like he's pretty well off, you know. He seems to be good to go, you know, financially. So it's like, man, you know, just ride out being a legend, you know, and you know, I'm sure it's very tough for them, you know. I mean, I never wanted to stop playing football ever, but I just had to come to the realization. It's like, you know, I mean, still to this day, I have hamstring problems,
right,
you know,
right.
and I'll probably have them for the rest of my life, you know, especially if I'm ever, you know, sprinting or running fast. I mean, I'm going to always tear hamstring tissue. So yeah, man.
Funny side story. Juan and I went to Dunbar's track sometime within the past 10 years and just got a little workout. I was running bleachers. I was like, Juan,
I forgot all
do
about
not hurt
that.
yourself. Like, because I had gone too hard a couple of months before with a weight vest on sprinting, and I popped my hammy, which I popped in track. And I was like, Juan, don't come out here and hero workout just because you're at the track, bro. Don't be injuring yourself. I'm up there on the bleachers. I turn around and look down. Juan's over here rolling on the ground.
Hey man, I cannot talk when it comes to hamstring injuries. My mobility is subpar. So I went out to train at Shiloh Park for a fight and literally got a 10-15 minute warm-up in, like solid, was completely by myself, headphones in, getting ready for a fight against this dude who's actually a friend now. But I was like, I'm about to run through this dude. I was real hyped that day. I don't know why. Went out to do some sprints, some 40-yard sprints, and then working some 60s. And then I was going to do like 200s and call it a day. I got to like the third 40 and my hamstring just balled up. And I was like, this is not it, man. So I, you know, of course, went to like PT the next week and did all this stuff, trying to stay, you know, I'd already agreed to the bout. So literally hurt myself after a solid warm up. And I was borderline professional athlete. Like I was I ate good foods. I stretched out all the time, stretching, doing all this stuff. And I go to sprint on just basic grass and hurt myself. I don't know how. Yeah. So I can't talk when it comes to people having hamstring injuries. I'm not the one.
Yeah, dude, I forgot all about that day until you just mentioned it. See, the thing is I just like you, like I felt fantastic in the warm up.
Yeah.
I had ran like three or four 110s because like I knew I didn't want to step on the actual track, because if I step on a track, especially Dunbar's track is so good. And I'm like, man, if I step on that track, I'm going to want to dig in and just go as fast as I can. So I'm like, I'm just going to stick to the football field. I'm just going to stick to the turf, ran a few
to my roots, man.
Yeah. Ran a few, 110s and my body was feeling good. I'm like, oh man, I miss this feeling. And I started picking it up and just boop. I'm like, oh my god, man!
You gotta learn where the stuff has to end, dude. Yeah. Oh my gosh,
it's like a rubber band snapping.
All I do anymore is mobility work, pretty much, man. Just trying to, decades later, still unpacking some of these injuries from.
I need to take notes. This should be a learning lesson for me and not just a podcast of talking about fights.
I want to real quick touch on a few things before we dive into some of these recaps here. You mentioned Rich Franklin. He was like one of my favorite fighters of all time, especially like before he got mauled by Anderson Silva those 2 times. He was my guy. He was my favorite fighter by far. Is he really is he like living in Asia now?
No, he's back stateside, I believe. And I don't know much about the scenario, but I'm assuming it has to do with not being overseas while COVID's a thing.
Okay, gotcha.
Because he was fairly close to Singapore, I think, is where like ONE FC's like their headquarters is. Misha Tate actually lived over there for a while too, and a friend of mine rented her house from her. It was like, dude, we got chickens and all this stuff. I'm like, since when did you have chickens? He's like, oh, they're Misha's. And I'm like,
what?
Chicken sitting? Like, what is going on here? But sorry, to jump back to Rich. Rich moved back stateside. He's here, or not here. He's up in Cincinnati, close to Juan there. And I know that him and George Gurgel still stay in touch. I've seen them in like training videos recently with each other. But I think he's still doing something in some sort of capacity with ONE FC. I don't know what he's doing, but he was like a president or part owner or something like that.
Yeah, dang. That makes sense. Okay. They've been seems to have been doing a really good job with the ONE FC brand over the past year and a half, 2 years. It seems like they've been making a lot more noise recently.
Yeah, it's big over there. And speaking on character, he's a hell of a guy too.
Yeah.
I've done a few seminars, taken a few seminars by him, I guess, and then just met him at training and watched him train and just that dude is a monster. To knock out Chuck Liddell with a broken arm is unreal.
Yeah, right.
And I was actually there. I was there for that fight camp, and my head coach was one of his head sparring partners. So I saw like all the shit leading into it. It was a wild one. It was good.
I know he messed it up. Was it already kind of pre-busted going into the fight?
I don't know about that. He didn't disclose anything to us, at least.
Okay.
We went up there probably weekly for sparring sessions. And literally we would spar, so all the normal pros would spar, right? You'd have like me and Tommy Hayden and like Taylor Ruskin and all those guys. You probably don't know those names, but they're like Cincinnati, like kind of staples. But we'd all do our sparring session, and then Rich would start his like towards the tail end of ours. So we never really missed a lot of sparring. But during our last round, they started sparring one time, and we're like, hold on. Like we get cut. We're done. We're shutting our sparring session down. Like we all just like took our gloves off, took our shin pads off, and like just gravitated over towards the cage where he was training. We're like, yeah, right. We don't need any extra rounds. Like we're good. We'll just be spectators.
Yeah, I'm trying to soak this up a little bit.
Yeah, just watch a legend train a couple times. It was cool.
That's all. Yeah. Real quick before we dive into these fights, I'm curious. It just hit me. Did you ever get to see like one of like the massive like pay-per-view productions while you were out there, like at T-Mobile Arena or any of those?
I went to the only thing I went to out there was the UK game where Malik Monk dropped 47 on UNC. That was the only thing in T-Mobile I went to.
Okay.
So I did go to one, however, in Atlanta after I stopped fighting. It was when Israel Adesanya and Gastelum fought, and then Max and Poirier were after that. That
One of
was
the
one
best
of the
fights
craziest.
ever.
Yes, and I've
You
been
were
to
there for
like some
that
good
fight?
fights. Yes, dude.
Damn,
Literally,
that's sick.
edge of my seat. No one was standing up in the front rows. I was like, I don't know, 15 rows up from the like not the ground level. Those aren't the good tickets to buy anyways because you can't see shit. But I was
Right.
just where you could see over top of the cage. Basically, that was my only goal with buying tickets was, can I see into the cage? Everyone was sitting on the edge of their seat, and it was the loudest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like basketball games, I've been to basketball games. I've been to whatever you can imagine. Loudest. I mean, the energy, I would say it's comparable energy from Malik dropping like the 45th point or 44th point, because I'm sure the last one was a 3, and then his, that fight, like comparable energy, way louder in the fight.
From start to finish too. I bet it's just sustained the whole time. Yeah.
Well, halfway through round 1, I was like super nervous. I wasn't a huge Israel fan, right? Like I just wanted to watch him fight. I didn't care about what he said. I didn't care about his antics. I just wanted to watch the dude fight because I knew he was good. And then like halfway through the first, he took a couple shots. Then you could tell that he was going to be able to eat him somehow. Like it was just this feeling. You're like, oh, like he's going to be able to take Gastelum shots. Like for how long? I don't know, but I'm here for every second of it. And there's like drunk dudes getting kicked out during the fight, and I'm sitting here thinking, I don't care how drunk you are. Like, how are you getting kicked out during this fight? Like, this is the one that you watch. Even I knew the next one wouldn't live up to it. I knew there was no way. I was I love Max and I love Poirier, but it ain't living up to this fight. So, but no, it was amazing.
That's awesome.
That was when I really became a fan of Izzy. Like he obviously came over with this huge aura coming from kickboxing and being so successful. And, it was kind of assumed he was going to walk through Gastelum, although it was the biggest name he had fought at that time. At least, anyway, when Gastelum hit him in the first round, that was the first time he had been really tested. You knew he had good footwork and could avoid shots, but could he take a clean shot to the chin? And man, he showed the heart of a warrior in that fight. The 5th round I'm still surprised they didn't stop it after how many times he dropped him in the 5th. But that was like seeing him overcome and like completely take over by the end of that fight. He won me over big time that night.
Yeah. I didn't stand up a ton because there was people behind me sitting like just like everybody else was. I don't know what it was. It was like this unspoken, like, even though you stand up during most sporting events during exciting times, everyone was just sitting on the edge of their seat, screaming like crazy. It was wild. I only stood up during the 5th round when those knockdowns were happening, and I was like, the ref's got to stop it. Like, what is happening? And then you keep going, and you're just like, what the like just the wildest time. But
I've never seen somebody get dropped so many times in a single round and them not stop it. I was pretty shocked.
Yeah. I don't recall who the judge was or ref was, but I'd say that probably had something to do with it. Usually they have their like opinions on when you should stop it and when you should let it go, and some of them let it go a little bit long.
Yeah, there was one last night that went really long. I'm trying to remember which one it was. We'll get into it here in a second. So like I said, we haven't talked UFC since the end of October, so I wanted to kind of go back a little bit and just I'm gonna pull up some of the main cards here dating back and just kind of 2 or 3 sentences on a fight or two here and just kind of go through, and then we'll do a little bit more on the most recent ones that happened these past 2 weekends, and then we can kind of move into end of the year recap and 2021. Let me go ahead and get this pulled up here. We'll get this one. So can you guys see this?
Yes.
Yep.
Perfect. The last time we talked, this was the card that we were looking forward to the most, particularly the main event here, because Santos, it had been so long since he fought. He looked so good against John Jones. I jumped on the bandwagon hard there. And Glover Teixeira out here playing the spoiler. Juan, I know we had a lot of words on that fight back and forth. Matt, were you able to check this one out?
I saw highlights of it. I did not see the entire thing. I'd be lying if I said I did.
It was it was hard for me to watch. I was rooting for Santos big time. A ton of respect for Glover. I've loved him as soon as he came over. He's always been a tough out. But Thiago looked like he had the advantage on the feet big time. And in the second round, Thiago had hurt him. They were only on the feet for a brief second. And then Glover takes him down, and the whole second round ends with Glover on top, like minutes of control time there on top. So in third round, they're standing. Santos lands again and drops him. And then goes down and engages on the ground, gets flipped, and boom, here goes Glover with the submission win. I was just the game plan. I was really disappointed because it seemed like if he would have just got him to get back up on his feet, it looked like he would have won that standing up all day long.
Yeah. I have an interesting take on this, on like things you do during fights and how to explain them to like a lay person. I cannot explain it other than you do some stuff during a fight or you think about something weird. Not everybody, of course, but his coach probably never told him to engage in a scenario like that. But sometimes when you're in the moment, you do some shit that you're just like, what did you look back at the fight and you're like, I didn't do that in training. I just let people stand back up or whatever. But the easiest way I can explain it is, if you ever were running a football to like a football person, if you're ever running, like you catch the pass and you take off running, a fight is like you not thinking about juking a person, but you juke them.
Okay, yeah.
And you juke another person, and then maybe you like break a tackle or something. The best way I can explain how it feels to be in a fight, at least for me, you're in that mode the entire time. For like 90-something% of the time. So as to where with football, you have a break, you go back to the huddle, you get the next play, you catch your breath, so on and so forth. And fighting, like you are the zone, so to speak, or whatever, you're there. You're like, the smells, it's so weird. Like you can smell like tape, athletic tape, their body odor. Sometimes the ref says something and it like brings you out of that trance or whatever, but he probably did that and jumping on top of Teixeira. Who knows? Like he was just in the zone and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna punch this dude and get a TKO or something." Like that's you don't know what you're thinking. You just do it, and then before you know it, you're like, "Why the hell did I do that?" Like even during the fight, and then literally after you think, "Why the hell did I do that?" and you change your mindset, then you go right back into being in like the zone. It's weird.
That muscle memory
explain,
kicks in, and especially as soon as you say that meaks absolute sense. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Thiago was originally a BJJ black belt, was his kind of original before he fell in love with kickboxing. So yeah, your instincts just kick in. You got a guy down, of course I'm gonna go finish him on the ground. Yeah, that makes total sense. But that was tough because it looked like he was dominating on the feet so hard, and I don't think he'll end up losing a lot of luster. I think he'll still get a huge fight in the next one. I just thought, obviously, if you'd have won that, fighting Blachowicz, who he already beat, that would have been a great fight. Now the landscape of 205 is completely changed. We're talking about Izzy moving up to 205. That's going to be awesome.
I still don't know how I feel about all that. Like I understand super fights. I get it. Like go get your money. But man, I don't know. I don't know who's at 85 to challenge him. The Vittori guy, the Italian guy, is solid that he already fought. Izzy. But I don't know how I feel about the 205 thing yet. I'm interested in that one fight. I guess I'll say that. I'm interested in the champ versus champ. But other than that, like, why are you going to gain all this muscle and do all this stuff to get up to 205 and then go right back down to 85? If that's the plan.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see what the plan is there, because I've heard a lot of speculation about, is he just going to try to, like, a lot of guys have a detrimental effect when they try so desperately to put on weight. Like I know GSP, when he moved up to 185, he was like, I can't, like, forcing myself to eat that much, and it just wasn't good for my body. So Izzy has taken the perspective, from what I understand, is that he's just going to keep his same weight and just fight up a class.
Gotcha. And that's a dangerous game, man. Like I'm into it. I want to watch it, but that's a game that I would not want to play. Like, look at the difference between myself and like a 170-pound guy. Like Kevin Lee used to drop from 190 something to 55. So imagine if I'm fighting like Colby Covington or Masvidal or somebody that cuts 20 pounds to get to 70. Like, that's unfair. My muscle mass just doesn't match that. Like, it doesn't work. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm also not Israel Adesanya either. So he can do a lot of stuff that I can't do.
But I think there's definitely a balancing act there between not cutting so much and you feeling fresh on fight night versus cutting too much and depleting yourself. So we've seen mixed bag results of guys switching weight classes recently. Gilbert Burns, for example, has been a great example of a guy who moved up and had a ton of success. There was a guy who fought last night who used to be a heavyweight and has come down to 185. What's his name?
I can't remember who that is.
We'll get to it here in a minute because we're going to go over those anyway. But yeah, that's interesting. So are you? I guess you're more on the side of it's best to kind of go in as the bigger guy, even if you might not feel quite as 100%. Or where do you draw that line? Do you think?
It's a weird conversation on weight classes, I guess, because I don't think that we should cut as much weight as we have been in period. It's just part of the sport. But I think jumping up to fight like Blachowicz, like he outweighs you by a lot. Like I cannot stress this enough to people. Like mass equals, like we all remember some lessons in high school. Like they just have a different amount of weight on their arm than you have on your arm. And when they release like a full on punch to your head, like it's just a different feeling. And I've experienced it first. I've sparred with 85ers, UFC current 85ers in sparring sessions, and have been like, what in the shit am I doing? But there was no other 55ers to spar with.
Right.
Man.
Yeah.
It's funny hearing that perspective. I listen to a lot of Chael Sonnen's show because I'm just a huge mark for Chael.
He's hilarious.
He told a story this week about pretty much like when he was in college as a wrestler. I think it was 170. He was wrestling to be the guy on their varsity team, and he lost. So then he moved up to like 190 or something like that, and ended up being an All-American. So for him, it was energy. Yeah, it was him. It was that feeling. It was being able to eat what he wanted to and not having to wake up at 6 a.m. and go for a run to watch your weight all the time. That's an interesting conversation for sure. That's always going to be going on,
Yeah, I hope that's where we're headed. They're putting more rules based on weight cuts and what you can be. Like, for example, I think for my last fight, I could only be 8 pounds over my weight. No, 8%. So 13 pounds over my weight. My bad.
So they weighed you again on fight day?
Yep, to make sure you're not above a certain amount of weight, because a lot of people blow up, like especially with IV rehydration. That's one of the big, like that's the easiest way for me to get back to feeling normal after a cut. Right. And a lot of people are the same. But I think we should cut less or cut like little to no weight, like 5 pounds probably should be the max. And then you're going to get a lot more like Robert Whittaker-esque type of performances. So.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because in regards to like last night, with Wonder Boy coming through, with the victory, not to jump ahead too much, but I absolutely forgot that he beat Whittaker. I completely forgot that Wonder Boy beat Whittaker. I was like, man, I'm huge Wonder Boy fan just because I love his style. Plus, he just seems like, same thing with Masvidal. They're just great guys.
He's got to be one of the nicest dudes. I haven't even met Wonder Boy. He's got to be one of the nicest guys that exists. Not just in the UFC, but just he's too nice.
Yeah.
the NMF or whatever.
It's something that Juan and I talked about last night. Yeah, because he called out, let's do NMF versus BMF. So he wants the Masvidal fight. I get that Masvidal is ranked above him. Masvidal is way more popular. That's definitely the money fight. A money fight, but he already beat Masvidal. You can't call out somebody you already beat. What's up with that, man?
I don't know. Listen, I call out whoever you want. They're making, whatever they're making for each fight. I don't know what the motivation is behind that. Maybe he just feels like it's a win that puts him back into the spotlight, a quicker way to get to the title. I'm not sure. If I was Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, I wouldn't be in any hurry to fight Usman. So.
Yeah, that's a bad match.
Like, just be careful what you wish for, man. Next thing you know, you're gonna be fighting him, and he's gonna have you on your back for 15 whole minutes.
I don't know who at 170 could really beat Usman. Like, I think Durinho's a good matchup, but I think Kamaru's better at what he's good at. right?
It's going to take a weird wrestler of equal caliber or someone like a power puncher. There's no in between. It's not going to be takedown defense like what's his name? Masvidal could possibly beat him, right? Like we saw that fight, we watched those punches exchange, but he can't keep his back off the cage. Like,
right.
You got to either be an equal wrestler or you got to be that much better of a striker to where he's scared to get hit by you, kind of thing. Like there's no in between, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
God, like the Colby fight, I guess, would kind of be the best kind of blueprint. Like someone with good enough wrestling that's not going to get dominated to where Kamaru's wanting to more primarily strike, but got to have a little bit more power than what Colby had, I guess.
Yeah, Colby hits like a 12-year-old. But
somebody said,
man, there's people that hit hard, and then there's people that you can clearly see they don't hit real hard, and he does not hit real hard.
I forget who it was.
He'll hit you 100 times, but
yeah.
Somebody said he punches like like one of those like a cardio kickboxer.
100%,
like a Tybo.
Yeah,
I've never seen a dude at that physical level of competition that just doesn't hit hard. He looks like he would hit hard. He wrestles like he would hit hard, and then you watch him punch somebody and he hits like an absolute bitch. Who am I thinking of right now? That God, there's somebody that popped into my head while I was thinking about Colby. Oh, LeBron. Listen, man. Also, be careful what you wish for, because if that dude just decides to start boxing for 12 months straight, he's gonna ruin your life, Colby Covington. I'm sorry. And I'm a huge MMA. If it's an MMA fight, it's no question to me. But if you teach LeBron how to defensively box in 5 ways and offensively box in 20 ways, Colby is not very hard to hit. And I know that's a completely different conversation, but good Lord.
No, I like that.
6'9" and a whole lot of weight. Please don't fight that guy if you want to survive.
And a hell of a natural athlete.
Yeah. They were like, I had some people looking at me like I was crazy when I said that. And I was like, no, 6'9". Colby Covington's 5'10", 6 foot.
Maybe, yeah.
He's 9 inches taller than you. I fought dudes. I sparred against dudes that were 6'4", and it took me, I tried to explain it to people that don't box. It took me 3 years to learn how to box a tall guy. 6 foot was my first challenge, right? They're 3 or 4 inches taller than you. You figure out how to fight that 6 foot to 6'1" guy, and then you get the 6'4" guy comes in the gym, and you're like, oh, how do I hit him? What do I do?
What the hell do I do this?
Do I do body shots first? Do I do but then you figure them out. It took me legit 3 years. And then I would finally be like, all right, if there's a 6'4", 155er, I'll fight him. But yeah, it's a dangerous game when they're that tall.
The height thing is what really makes this Izzy Blachowicz fight most interesting for me, because Izzy's the smaller guy. He's the one moving up, but he seems like he's going to have the height and the reach advantage. So that's kind of something you don't see every day, is that the smaller guy is the one with the length. I think he's just kind of going into predictions on that fight. I think he's too fast for Jan, and I see Izzy avoiding enough to get the win, possibly by stoppage in 3 or 4. But I mean, if Izzy tries to go out there, like when he fought Whitaker, for example, or Gastelum, he took a lot more punishment than you thought he was going to. And when he fought Whitaker, he wasn't afraid to engage with him. He was standing toe to toe and ducking blindly and just heaving. And if he gets that close to Jan and gets clipped, Jan's got the power to put him out.
Yeah. That's a good point. It's a really good point. Yeah. And that's exactly, he was. Yeah, that's what he looked like. Whenever he stepped in, just, man. It's going to be an interesting fight. It's going to be a really interesting fight.
I'm excited about that just because, I mean, obviously going up to 205, that if he beats Blachowicz, the Jones fight is one of the biggest possible fights they could make in the sport. So I would, as a fan, I would love to see that fight eventually happening.
If we get Cocaine John versus Izzy of any sort, Izzy is going to die. I'm not just saying that. I want both of them juiced to the gills, whatever drug of choice, you do it. you come in that cage and you scrap. That's what fight I want to see.
Yeah.
I really did. Just that's a dangerous fight for Izzy, and I like Izzy as a person and as a fighter better than I like John Jones. But to act like John Jones couldn't just take Izzy down and fucking maul him is.
Do you think that's what he would do?
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm totally with you.
I think
Jones.
old John comes. I think the John Jones that spinning back elbowed Stephan Bonner is coming back. If that's
damn.
Like I think he's that pissed. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not an expert picker of fights, but I can tell you right now that's a hard fight for Izzy to win, regardless.
That's a fight I'm definitely rooting for Izzy if it happens. But I completely understand. What I want to think is that Jones has a tendency to want to match people at their strengths. So like when he fought Thiago, or Dominique Reyes is probably the best example. He stood with Reyes more or less the whole fight.
Yeah.
He kind of likes to try to
playing safety.
Reyes?
How about that guy playing safety?
I cannot imagine him coming over top if I'm running a post route, bro. But anyway,
well, you're just entirely too big.
Right. Like he's gigantic. I might be able to get over top on him with the speed over top. You never know.
Yeah, but the hell, I don't want to get hit by him. That's all.
But I see Jones's mindset is what's so crucial. So the closest he ever came to losing, in my opinion, was Gustafsson, the first fight, which I thought he probably lost 3-2, but that's obviously arguable. Second fight, he absolutely mauls Gus. So you can see the difference in Jones based on his level of focus. So I think your point about him being pissed off about that fight, I think that is a really good point, in that he would likely go to the better strategy and not let his ego win and want to stand.
He's a very egocentric person, so I don't know. It's a good take.
Curious to see how things go at heavyweight for Jones, who they end up matching him up with. I think the top 5 in heavyweight is a little bit spicy right now, so there's a lot of matchups I'd love to see.
Who should he fight?
Okay, so I would love to, in a perfect world where who deserves the title shot gets the title shot, we have Stipe fight Francis, and then in a competitively balanced world, Jones would fight somebody before then, somebody like a Curtis Blades, I would say.
Still a good matchup. I love it.
That's a great.
Yeah.
John. So here's what scares me about John at heavyweight: gaining weight, putting on muscle mass, being slower. He's not a fast person. He's not a fast twitch guy. His brothers, who are in the NFL, are the fast twitch of that family. I think he's a longer muscle endurance athlete, just by birth. I think. Now,
that totally makes sense.
He can probably hit really hard, but it's just not as hard. If you taught his brothers how to do the same thing, they would hit harder. It's just how it is. But I just worry about him gaining all that mass and being slower, and his cardio might be okay, but who knows? Like, if you put on lean muscle and you're an endurance athlete, you're probably gonna be okay. But fighting a heavyweight is a different class of how hard they hit.
And that's weird to me because I could see him doing better against Stipe than somebody like a Curtis Blades.
Ngannou would be so hard for him to fight. I think you're not just John Jones is not just lifting Ngannou up and putting him on his back. I don't think. If all this powerlifting results in that, then call me on it. Text me whenever the fight's over. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't think so, man.
Ngannou's terrifying, and he's so big. He's one of those guys that cuts to 265. I honestly think there should be another weight class in there. So like maybe something cuts off 235-ish, 240, 245, and then you just have a that plus with no upper limit. It's a conversation for another day. I've always been a fan of the heavyweights though, and I think there's a lot of good matchups out there. So really excited to see Jones and how he can do against some of those bigger guys. There was a good up-and-coming heavyweight matchup last night with Marcin Tybura and Greg Hardy.
TKO, baby.
Yeah.
Finally.
Hardy. I mean, I think I texted you last night, Keith. What did I say? It looked It was embarrassing. What is it? He looked so winded. I mean, he almost looked like he didn't want to be there. Like, well, he looked like he really didn't want to be there after the first round. You know, the first round he was, you know, God, he was landing what? He landed like 5-6 shots, right? You know, directly. Power. I mean, significant strikes.
He was heaving that right straight. That right hand he fell in love with it. It seemed like he almost was like, okay, I'm better than this guy. I'm gonna win this fight. And then he just kind of like mentally lost his edge, and then he went down to the ground, and that was it.
And I believe DC said it, you know, said it perfectly last night. It's like he didn't know what to do when he got on his back. He had no idea what to do, you know, and he could not get up. Yeah, that was interesting. I was disappointed, really disappointed to see that fight go down that way, but oh well.
All right, I'm going to run us back here, guys, back to this Santos Teixeira fight. We're going to roll through some of these and get to because I'm dying to talk about some of the fights from last night here. But I just want to run through some of these real quick because there were a lot of really good fights. Gedalia versus Yan Xiaonan. This chick right here, Xiaonan, she is a monster. Definitely someone to watch. She's the real deal.
Go back to that stat real quick. Oh my gosh. She threw 234 strikes
in a 3-round fight. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have ever been to a cardio kickboxing class, but that's like 4 rounds of cardio kickboxing, except there's somebody else trying to punch you in your face.
And take you down aggressively the whole time. I mean, 2 takedown attempts. Yeah. Claudia was being active.
Yeah, Claudia's a monster, man. So that chick's got to be legit. 13-1 and 1 no contest is a good record, obviously, for that chick.
Definitely the deepest of the women's divisions, the 115. One of my favorite divisions.
I love the strawweight division.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of really good young up and comers. With the cuts looming, I'm curious to see if some of those perennial favorites end up not making the list there, like your Carolina Kowalkiewicz, or however you pronounce her last name, for example.
Yeah.
Kind of a fan favorite, but also on a bit of a losing streak. I can see her not quite making it. Claudia, I think, will probably be on the right side of that one, but girls like Angela Hill might be on the list there. I think she keeps her spot.
On the list to cut? Oh no, she should stay. She was on like a tear recently, wasn't she?
Just with the balance of, I know they're kind of prioritizing people that haven't had an opportunity yet, and she seems like one of those people that's had a lot of opportunities with the big names. It just hasn't. It doesn't seem like a title is realistically in her future. But as a fan, I love watching her fight, and I can't
like she's
imagine
just coming into her own. You know,
she had a huge 2020. I can't imagine she's super expensive, so I'd love to see her stay.
Yeah, I wonder how much she makes them though.
Interesting. She's going to come back up in my honorable mention for fight of the year. But anyway, moving on. Giga Chigadze. This dude is a kickboxing nightmare. If you've never seen him fight, check out his next fight. This fight, I don't remember. Andraj Arlovski still out there getting W's. I loved seeing him in the win column.
Absolutely loved seeing that. Yeah, I was pumped. Man, when Arlovski was at his peak, I was such a fanboy for Andraj. I used to love his mouthpiece, man. He used to come out with the fangs and the long hair with the
man. Love me some Andraj Arlovski of the past. I'm conflicted. I'm like, man, look at your record, bro. Like you have fought more times than like that's incredible. 30-19 with 2 no contests. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to say I hope he gets cut, but like if I wouldn't be surprised if he got cut.
I would not be surprised either. I totally agree. Yeah.
Same.
But then he'll do this thing. I was actually talking to one of my buddies about this, who's like a big fight fan and has been for a long time. He'll do this thing where he fights so below average, like just below his capability. And then he'll go and fight and look incredible the very next fight. It's like he takes one fight off and then he comes back and he's a beast again. So who knows? Maybe he's got a bunch of good fights left in him.
It'd be fun.
The Legends League
for as long as he's there. All right, so moving on to the next fight night here, we had Felder versus Dos Anjos. I honestly think RDA is one of the most underrated fighters on the roster.
That dude's fought a ton of people, right? Like when we look back at all the stuff, at all the people he's fought, like he's fought some monsters.
Yeah, every single fight he's had has been in the gauntlet since he first came into the UFC. I didn't like him when he first came over, but another one of those guys that just over time you can't help but respect the hell out of him.
Yeah.
Can we? So we're on Felder. Can we scroll down? Can we hit some scrolls?
Yeah.
More,
Prelims?
a little bit more. Yeah, man. I got some people. I think.
Okay,
Hold
let's
on.
give some shout outs.
Where they at? Is that the? Hold on.
This is the prelims from the November 14 card.
Dontel Mays is from Kentucky. Shout out.
Really?
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
Yep. He fought on the local circuit. I didn't know he won that fight either. Good for him.
That's awesome.
I thought there was another person.
This is the prelims and then here's the main card.
It's another card. But shout out Paul Felder for coming in off of short notice and doing what he did.
Who was that supposed to be originally? Was it Kevin? No, he already fought Kevin Lee. It was.
I think it was a COVID deal, wasn't it? Like whoever it was had COVID and had to drop out.
Hold on, I got a tab open. I can try to figure it out.
God, who was that?
It was Islam Makhachev.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Dos Anjos. So here's the thing about switching opponents. Would he have done better if he had a full camp against Paul Felder? Maybe so. But would Paul Felder have done better had he had an actual if his cardio training was related to fighting? It would have been a lot different. I think he was training for a triathlon or something like that.
Yeah.
So yes, it helps your lungs and everything else. But in terms of like having explosive, the ability to explode with your muscles is
completely different system.
You have to have it. Yeah. You have to have it in fighting. And I don't think he had it that night.
And a completely different style matchup for RDA going from Islam to Paul. So just a ton of respect to him for taking that fight and then showing out like he did. I'd love to see him get into that talks at the top of 155 again. Cause I mean, honestly, I think he could do it.
Wide open. He might as well be.
Yeah. Right. Like, okay. So as I say that, wow, him versus DeBronx sounds like an obvious matchup. But I mean, you got a fatal four-way up there with
how does
Chandler.
DeBronx not get how does he not get a title fight?
So
that dude's on a streak.
So curious to see how it all plays out. Is Khabib going to come back? Is Conor versus Poirier going to end up getting an interim title? I know Dana has said time and time again it won't.
What do you do with Gaethje there?
Right.
You know?
I think Gaethje's back into
Chandler.
The fold. Ooh, that's a good one. I think that's a good fight. I don't know if those two have ever trained together. What I did not like about the Gaethje Khabib fight was I think they had trained together before because they had the same manager. I don't know. It felt like familiar almost. Just the way that Gaethje kind of like he talked about how his ground game was different than anything Khabib had ever seen, but like, really, I don't know. He trains at AKA. He trains with DC Luke. Like, I mean, come on. You know, he's not trained with grapplers of your level. Like, probably so. And then add 40 pounds onto him. So no, sorry, I don't mean to talk about other fight cards, but that's a different conversation, I suppose.
No, that whole 155 is a round robin up there, man. I think that there's so many narratives. It's definitely my favorite class in the UFC, the most fun one to talk about. So I mean, it sounds like to me, the way to work that out is we've got Conor and Poirier. We do Gaethje versus Chandler, and then we have DeBronx versus Dos Anjos. And then the three winners of those kind of, depending on if Khabib comes back or not, we kind of work it out from there. But that top six seems like it's pretty solidified.
Yeah. And then you got Oliveira. I mean, he's sitting at number 3 right now in the rankings.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Oliveira versus Dos Anjos would be a hell of a fight.
Oh, okay.
Because RDA just came back from 170 and got that win over Paul Felder, who was top 5, I think, at the time. So he's right there too.
Yeah. I'm interested in seeing Chandler off PEDs. That's pure speculation. Listen, I don't know that he actually is on anything, but That I don't know if you watch his Instagram, but it's ridiculous. Like if he trains that way without it, good on him. That's impressive. Seriously, man.
I'll be curious to see how he fares. We've seen a lot of guys really hyped come over and flop pretty hard if they've been thrown right into the wolves there. So if he gets, I mean, I'm not the biggest Justin Gaethje fan in the world, but I mean, there's no denying that the kid can scrap. So going to be
he can't take Gaethje. If he cannot take Gaethje down, he's in trouble. Flat out. The Gaethje that fought against Tony Ferguson. Now, I don't know if that was the turning of the page that we saw in his career, Ferguson's career, or that's just how good. That's just how good. God, what's his name? We just were talking about him. Gaethje. I don't know if that's how good Gaethje is now, or that's how bad Tony's gotten.
Tony needs to move up to 170. I feel like he just looks depleted anymore. He looks bad. He looks really unhealthy, man.
It's hard to get him out of that. Hard to get him out of that zone, dude. He cut weight twice in 3 weeks. Like, yeah, your coach is so.
Tony versus Nate Diaz at 170. Make it, Dana. Let's see it.
Right.
I like it.
All right, so November cards. My bad.
Yeah. Let's jump back.
You're good. You're good.
Quick.
It's on me. I'll take that.
I love that.
I'll wear that.
155. We'll be back to that here in the near future. This card, obviously super top heavy. RDA with the dubs there. Can't remember. Dontel Mays. Shout out KY crew. Davison Figueiredo whooped up on Alex Perez. I'm going to talk a lot about this guy in our end of the year award, so we'll come back to him. I feel like there was a good prelim on this one. Oh, this is when Moreno versus Royval happened. That was a hell of a fight because Raw Dog was on a really good streak going into there.
Yeah, I love that.
That's
name.
how he got that title shot. Yeah, man, that's interesting that they let him keep that that name.
Yeah.
Are there any more prelim fights? Who's that early prelim?
So this is D-Rod versus.
What is an early prelim? Anything?
An early prelim. Let's see who was.
I don't understand it. Oh man, the man dime. Alan Jubon. Sorry.
Got the dubs there.
He's I was gonna say he's a 10. He's a man 10.
Yeah, right. Male model over here.
Yeah.
So Antonina must have made a really quick turnaround after she won this one because then this is the one with Valentina. Okay. First time ever two sisters fought on the same card and both won. Antonina really looked good because I was worried after she had lost to who was it, Chukagian, that kind of dominated her pretty good. But she looks like she's gone from a pure kickboxing focus to a little more ground heavy. I mean, she got a takedown and was pretty dominant in top position. So it looks like her and Valentina both have been grappling a little bit more here recently.
That's the old how you still the round at the end of the round thing. Like, can I take him down with 30 seconds left and I get subbed? That's the move for a lot of strikers.
This fight right here, I was really pissed about. I thought D-Rod won this big time. You can see he significant strikes plus 33. It's not like Dalby landed any takedowns or anything. D-Rod looked like he was throwing the harder shots as well. I think this was highway robbery right here.
I didn't get to see that one, if I'm being honest. I did watch pretty much everything else on this card, though.
Buckley, that guy is exciting to watch, man.
Yeah.
What a knockout.
Shogun, bro. He's one of those ones on the cut list, right?
Yeah, he's got to be. Yeah. Good luck.
Honestly, man, it's not out of hate. It's not out of hate. I just want people to not keep fighting just because that's what they know. Like, get out of here.
Totally.
Go do something else. Go make money doing something else.
Totally. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Go open up a gym or, some other endeavor. Yeah. Carly, there you go.
Turn into a former UK basketball player. You're good.
Yeah. Right.
you got this.
It's
Papa
perfect.
John's, whatever.
Mike Perry versus Tim Means. That was a fun fight. But, yeah, Perry, dude, that guy's got to have CTE, right?
I don't even know. I think it's like he needs like a legit doc to look into his situation. I'm not trying to say anything negative about somebody's mental health, but yeah, he doesn't have a fight camp now. His girl's holding pads for him. Like, it's not, this game is not anything to play around with. It's not.
especially when you're going out there against the killers in the welterweight division, man. You
could fight freaking, what was it, Mickey, what was that dude's name that he fought the first time he had the bad fight camp? The guy that came in to fight CM Punk. Mickey Gall. He fought Mickey Gall, right? Not like right before this, right?
And looked great.
But you see this like decline in his level of maturity, and then his like he's getting into it with old people at the bar and all this. It's like, dude, go home. It's fine. Like, yeah. And also go get a real fight camp again.
Yeah, man. I totally agree. I mean, I feel bad when I listen to like him speak a lot, just because like I've come across so many Mike Perrys in my life. And I'm just like, and just hearing some of the things that he says, and that whole incident with him at the bar. And I mean, he's just straight dropping in bombs. And I'm just like, dude, man, I have met guys like you so many times. And like, you all got some serious issues, man. You got some serious mental health problems. And I don't know his upbringings and his background, but all those guys that I met that I actually knew, I mean, they did have very terrible backgrounds and upbringings, abusive childhood, and the things of that nature. And it's like, man, now and you're in the fight game. It's like, yeah, dude, I agree. He needs some help. He definitely needs some help.
He looked really out of shape in his last fight too. And I'm not trying to pile on the guy. It looks like personality wise, he seems like he's got a really fun loving, cool to hang around with guy deep in there.
I'm sure he'd be hilarious.
Yeah, praying he gets just what he needs in life, because definitely someone that visibly looks like they're going through some stuff in their personal life.
Yeah, he'd be hilarious to hang out with until you like say one thing that he doesn't like, and then all of a sudden he wants to kill you. Right. It's like,
no, I know the type. I'm just saying, like, I'm sure he'd be fun. He'd be a lot of fun to hang out with, but like,
yeah, totally.
Don't stay like after 1 o'clock at the bar. Like, yeah, I gotta go.
Yeah, right.
He's still going to be there. I have no doubt.
Yeah, totally.
So moving on that fight, on that card, we had Valentina versus Jennifer Maia in a much closer fight than I think most of us anticipated. Spent a lot of the time on the ground there. That's why I said Valentina looks like she's been practicing her grappling a lot. But
she got taken down, right? Am I right? Valentina got taken down.
I think she got taken down in the first.
Yeah, and then she turned into the aggressor after that, right? 5 of 6 takedowns.
Yeah, it looked like she got kind of confident, like, okay, I can roll with this chick here. Let's see what I can do. Yep.
So what I'll say about offense and defense is usually you're either dominant on one or the other in terms of wrestling. Mm-hmm. So this Jennifer Maia gal probably beats the piss out of her training partners or whatever, or is just really good at offensive wrestling. And then she goes against Shevchenko and probably doesn't practice a ton of defensive wrestling because she never really shoots on people or never really clinches up to take them down with body locks. Like, I think that's what happened in that fight.
Right.
It's impressive to see the evolution of somebody. Look at this. Look at the output.
Like, yeah, the output's insane. 6 attempts on takedowns and 317 strikes.
Oh, God.
It's so crazy.
78% accuracy. Like, I know a lot of those are probably ground shots, but good Lord.
It's been impressive to see both her and Amanda in the way that we kind of traditionally view them as strikers, but they've both in their recent fights, Amanda versus the Iron Lady, showing that she can dominate on top as well. I mean, she mauled in the grappling in that fight. I think these two are on a collision course again, unless the one spoiler I can see at this time is the newly minted 125 competitor Jessica Andraj. So after looking at the way, so she just moved up from 115 to 125, and she fought Chukagian in her first fight and put her down with a body blow. And Jessica's always been one of those girls that like is impressive to look at her physique, and putting on that extra 10 pounds, it looks like she is a monster to be reckoned with. So I can't wait for them to make that fight, Shevchenko versus Andraj.
Right.
Moving ahead here, let's see. Smith versus Clark. This was not the deepest card in the world, so we can kind of remember this one.
I think, and I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I missed that whole card. I forget what I was doing, but I missed that night.
That last week of November there. Let's see. Hermanson versus Vittori. Vittori was a last-minute replacement in this fight. Looked super impressive. The only guy to ever take a round off of Adesanya. Jamal Hill really showed out. That's a name to keep on the radar there. Woo!
That dude, I was kind of calling BS before the fight because of St. Prue's past. But St. Preux looked off, looked like something looked like he just wasn't prepared. And Hill looked incredible. After he figured out the range, that dude hits hard. That's another level of talent. Good God.
Be fun to see what they do with him next. St. Preux has been one of those guys I've always kind of followed, just, coming from a football background. I know he played at Tennessee is what it was. He played like D-end or something like that. So I've always kind of enjoyed watching guys with a football past. And then I know he had moved up to heavyweight, and I think this was his first fight back down at 205. And didn't look like things were going much better for him there.
No, Justin James there, he took a heck of a body shot from Benitez. That's Justin James' former training partner. Tough dude, but taking that guy's striking is ridiculous. I don't know if you guys got to see it, but that was one of the craziest body shots I've seen in a while.
Was it a kick or a punch, or what kind of strike was it?
Knee to the right to the center of the chest, man. It's crazy.
Solar plexus.
You just watched him kind of like you could tell he wasn't going to be able to fight.
I do remember that. Yeah.
All right, then we had the big pay-per-view.
He's tough, man.
This 2 weekends ago,
the quick turnaround for these kids.
Both of these guys had fought on the same card and ended up turning around. I want to see them fight after like fight camps, like full fight camps. Especially for a guy like Figueiredo, who it seems like he's cutting a lot to get down to 125. He's such an imposing guy. So then you would think that turning around on 3 weeks notice would really be depleting especially for a guy like that. And I know he had to go to the hospital the night of the fight.
Oh gosh. For afterwards
he had food poisoning
the day before the fight. Yeah, he was in the hospital till 2 a.m. He got released the day of the fight.
So this dude came out and fought like that after,
and went straight back to the hospital afterwards.
Straight back to the hospital. Yeah. Talk about a beast. Yeah. I remember they asked Dana White in the post-fight press conference, and they were like, what was your reaction, whenever, and he was like, well, I roll out of bed and I get the call that, he's going to the hospital. I'm like, well, what's wrong? And they didn't know it, at that point. They just knew he was extremely ill. And he was like, honestly, he goes, guys, this is 2020. Okay. Like, he's like, all the shit we've been through, I didn't even flinch. All right. But I mean, I can't imagine. That would be very tough to imagine. Thick skin there, because I would be panicking, that's like, for me and booking shows, that's like an artist saying that they're ill and they can't take the stage. It's like, oh shit, what are we going to do? That's intense. But yeah, like you said, to come out and fight like that, God, what a badass, man.
Monster.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely going to circle back on that fight for one of my fight of the year candidates, as well as talk a little bit more about Davison in general. So I won't spend too much time on that for now, because there were so many other good fights on that card. Really, I mean, the early prelims, even you open up with Chase Hooper with the sub. He was getting dominated pretty hard on the feet. I know Dana was a little bit disappointed overall, saying, kid, if you want longevity, you can't take that kind of damage every fight. I love this kid, though. His personality's so funny. He did a bit with Ben Askren where he's acting like he's Ben Askren's son. That cracks me up so much, man.
Yeah, you can tell he's a good kid.
Yeah, definitely rooting for that kid for longevity here. One of my favorites at strawweight, Tisha Torres. Good to see her getting a W. I was a little bit worried if she had lost this fight that she might be one of those people that was on the line there. So happy to see her win. Moicano versus Fiziev. Oh my goodness. I was looking forward to this fight, and it lived up to it. So Moicano is always going to go out there and bang. Tough dude. This dude, Fiziev, I had never heard of him until his debut, I think, was whatever he fought the first time this year. And he was a Thai instructor, very high level Thai instructor, just now getting into MMA competition. Oh my goodness. You want to talk about a
I feel like I've
fluid,
seen a little bit about him, man.
absolute dynamic striker, man. He can throw a head kick like a guy will fire off a jab. Like it's not even a thing to him. You never see the kicks, the power body kicks coming. He ended up landing a punch combo that ended the fight here, but definitely a guy to watch out at 155. Rafael Fiziev. Keep an eye on that kid. Can't say enough how impressed I was. Moving along here, we had Cub Swanson getting back in the win column.
Cub Swanson, just not to. I'm sorry, but can we just say what a gangster? All right,
That dude's been through a lot.
Yeah, what a gangster that dude is. Straight up.
He was the double knee TKO or KO by Aldo back in the day.
Oh yeah,
y'all remember that one? Like,
yeah,
that dude's seen some scraps. Like fought the who's who.
That was WEC days, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Cubs got some of the best ink in all of the game.
Right.
Yeah,
the SoCal tat.
SoCal. Yeah.
I met Cub at an event in I think it was Pennsylvania, and he had just clocked by Aldo, and I saw him and I was like, oh, he signed up to do an appearance here. Like, that's really shitty. And then I was working the cage door, and he comes over and sits down beside me to corner somebody, and I look over and I'm like, I shouldn't say anything to him. Like, that's rude as shit. And I was like, but then I would not be acknowledging his, like, who he is. You know what I mean? Like, he deserves recognition for who he is. So I was like, hey man, what's up? Like, big fan. He's like, yeah, thanks, man. And I was like, tough loss, a couple weeks ago. Sorry to hear that. I was like, but it looks like you're healing up well. And he was like awesome about it. Like, I think he got cut twice on that eye or something. And he was just as chill and as cool as you could ever be after getting KO'd by somebody, and then the person who you just met basically bringing it up. So it was kind of
classic.
Yeah.
Hey, remember that time a couple weeks ago when you got knocked out? That was so cool, man. Sorry about that.
Yeah, and the whole world was watching.
I was like, that was brutal. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. I'll be curious to see how they wrap up Cubs' career here. I mean, he can't have too many fights left, but a guy I'm always going to be rooting for.
I would hope not.
Yeah, I loved it after the fight, man. He was shouting out like every place, like in that SoCal Coachella Valley that I've been to, and I'm like, oh shit, this is freaking cool, man. Like I know exactly where he's coming from, so it's sweet, man. Yeah, seems like a good guy.
So getting on to the main card of 2 weekends ago, kind of talked about Dos Santos going down. I had never heard of this guy, Cyril Gahn. Not the greatest on the mic, but man, is he a scary looking dude.
Right.
Yeah.
I think he trains with Francis, I believe is what he said, but just a gigantic guy that maxes out the heavyweight. I think he said he would never fight Francis. So that's actually the matchup I probably most wanted to see. Would love to see him fight somebody like a Rosenstrike, though. That'd be a great matchup.
Yeah, he's from France. Is that right?
I believe
Where's
so.
he from? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And Dos Santos looked good early, but
he didn't look bad.
Yeah, he really did, man. But it's
that chin's just not quite there.
Fighting's an unforgiving sport.
Yeah, especially when you've been doing it at such a high level for as long as he has. Mm-hmm. And I would imagine that fighting the heavyweights with those heavy hands probably expedites that process of declining your career, I would say.
No doubt.
Can't even imagine.
Just going to touch on Holland because I've got a ton to say about him later, but great win over Jacare there. That was the real coming out moment for Kevin Holland. We'll kind of want to save him for the awards later in the show. Women's strawweight battle right here. This was a great matchup. The first time Mackenzie's been on a pretty good streak here lately. She got cracked open, busted her nose. The first time we've really seen her bleed a whole lot and face that kind of striking adversity. Mm-hmm. I know she's been practicing her striking and wanting to do that a little bit more, but she looked good. I got to say, man, I was worried about her, but fighting through that broken nose that happened early, I thought she looked great and showed a lot of grit.
Mm-hmm. She always looks great. You mean fighting? I'm sorry. fighting. Yeah. She
Yeah.
looked really good in the fight.
It'll be interesting.
If she can learn how to strike, she'll be just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Her ground games are ridiculous compared to anybody she's ever going to face.
That's why
True
I
that.
think she's an interesting matchup for the top of that division, because it seems like, the top of the strawweight is very striking heavy. Your Rose, Joanna, Wei Li, other than Tatiana Suarez, who has been inactive for so long, they've taken her out of the rankings. McKenzie's really the only one that's a primary grappler in that top 5 there. So interesting matchups. Curious to see who she fights next. This fight was, gotta say, pretty disappointing for me.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about it already, but just kind of watching that decline of Tony Ferguson, he just looks like he looks like a fighter who's been fighting for a long time. I mean, that's what he looks like.
Yeah. I think Charles Oliveira might have done the same exact thing to him on any given night. I think I read a blurb of where like DC said something similar. And I was thinking about it prior to the fight. I was like, man, matchup wise, Charles is the type of guy that's going to give you problems. Like anybody in that division, it's going to be a tough fight. Then you add in Tony getting older and all this other stuff. And I'm like, one of my friends asked me if I wanted to buy it and have it hosted at my house. And I was like, no, I don't want to see it. I really don't even want to see it. Like, I'm sorry, but I just don't.
Did you see this, the arm bar?
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh, man. It looked like he couldn't do anything. Like, forget trying to throw a punch with that arm the rest of the fight, but even like holding your ground and trying to push the other guy and like prevent him from overtake. Like there was no resistance from the left side of his body for the rest of the fight. I wish they would like. He's just one of those guys who's too damn tough for his own good. Yeah.
Yep.
Poor Tony.
Tough to see. Such a fun guy, but praying for Tony that he can keep his head on straight, because I know he's had some issues in the past. But
right.
Love that guy. Anyway, main event ended in a draw. Moreno Figueiredo, one of the best fights of the year. I'm going to talk about it here in a little bit. So let's move on to last night's cards. A lot of good fights last night, top to bottom. Start on the prelims here. This guy, can't remember how to pronounce his last name. So the Tafon Don Chukwe or whatever is a monster.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to know who he is. He's got 5 fights. Like, I need to watch that guy.
You hardly ever see guys with that few fights in the UFC. He has a background in Muay Thai, so he fought a lot of kickboxing before he came over to MMA.
Where's this guy
from? Typically means they're pretty damn good.
I remember seeing his flag.
I think he's from Cameroon is where he was born.
Okay, I was gonna say I thought it was Ghana when I first saw the flag, but okay, Cameroon. Okay,
he's a massive middleweight, shorter guy, stocky, just absolutely shredded to the gills. Power puncher, which is why I was kind of surprised to see he was able to last 5 rounds, because he was still. I mean, he had depleted, but he was the more active fighter in the 3rd round, which I was surprised about. So. Definitely got to keep an eye on moving forward in the middleweight there. Tyler Santos looked great. Duran Wynn, that's DC's boy. This was a fun fight because Arroyo was like 6'4" and Duran Wynn is like 5'6". So it was one of the weirdest height disadvantages I've ever seen. It looked like Arroyo was going to kind of run through him at first. His striking looked great, but Wynn was able to just take him down at will once he was able to get inside. And nice. I mean, how many takedowns did he end up with? 12 of 16. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Grinding it out for the fans. That's what we like to call it. we like to call those grinders just doing it for the fans. Keeping it exciting.
Eubanks, this fight was a snooze fest. Pettis looked pretty solid. I love Showtime. I hope he stays with the company.
How about Pettis, man? I don't know what that guy's doing, but shout out for him still fighting and at a high level. He's the same. To me, like the guy that he may accidentally take a fight off and then he's back on. It's so weird. Like mentally or what, he blamed it on weed and booze this past time. Like, hey man, whatever makes you fight better, I'm with it. But yeah, I'm a big Showtime fan.
Definitely. Yeah. See, seems like a great guy. Looked really, really solid last night. Really solid. I was pleasantly surprised, honestly. I thought Moreno was gonna catch him, but
I'm a
he
little
looked good.
I'm kind of torn on Pettis. I'm like the Wonder Boy fight, he was losing bad until he hit that punch and KO'd him. But then like the Ferguson fight, I thought he looked great in the first round and a half, 2 rounds. It looked like he was dominating. And then Tony ended up taking over. Like he was so close to putting Tony away in that first round of that fight.
Yep.
Always a guy
that's what you get when he fights. That's what you get. Like, he has a chance to put you out no matter what round it is. Like, that's one thing I love about watching him fight. It's just got heart. He's got that classic Mexican chin, and he's gonna scrap, like, no matter what.
Definitely lives up to the Showtime moniker. Moving on to the main event, we talked about Hardy and Sabura. Sabura's he's a solid fighter. I don't see him holding a belt in his future, but I can definitely see him being, a top 10 guy at heavyweight for a while. Rob Font,
he's a contender. Rob Font coming in, the big underdog in this one. Yeah.
Marlon Moraes is no slouch.
Yeah,
that dude can scrap, and then this is the result. Like, that's crazy. I would have never have put money on that.
Yeah, not a lot of people did in Vegas either.
Right? No.
He was a big underdog. Yeah,
definitely speaks to the depth of the bantamweight division. I mean, a couple of months ago, we're looking at Moraes as the number 1 contender in the division, and now he's coming off of 2 stoppage losses with Sandhagen and Rob Font. Like, that's how quick and how quick things can turn around at 135, but also how deep the top of that division is.
Right.
Yeah.
I love this dude, by the way. He's hilarious.
Which one?
Pajeda is hilarious.
He was chalking all sorts of trash at the end of this fight too. Like, even as he was walking out of the cage.
Oh no.
Was he really? I didn't catch that.
Oh yeah.
That may just be part of the antics or who he is or whatever, but like him slapping that dude, the last fight that he had, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was the last fight he had. The dude slapped him at weigh-ins, and then he literally held out his hand for like 2 minutes during the fight. Or it wasn't 2 minutes, but it feels like it. He just slapped the crap out of the dude, and I was like, all right, I'm a fan. Like, I'm invested at this point. He does some other stuff that I don't prefer people do in the cage, but like, that earns a lot of respect for me. Like, I'm gonna slap you in this fight, and there's nothing you can do about it. Love that.
I love seeing the Diaz brothers slap people. Kevin Holland's got a good slap out there too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. Watching this fight, I gave it to Chaos Williams.
Did you?
It seemed like he was doing more, like landing the more powerful strikes consistently.
Totally agree.
Do you think the takedowns played into it at all?
They had to have. Yeah, I mean, I think
sometimes,
I want to say
the judges will screw you right out of it. Like, if you get a takedown, you hold the guy down for 15 seconds. They look at that as like a knockdown or something, which is not at all equivalent.
I want to say it was the end of the third. He scored like a late takedown that probably swung it for him.
Probably sealed the whole fight. Yep.
Yeah, he ended the fight on top of him, which really, I mean, the DC, was even talking about it. He was like, man, if he predicted it, he's like, he's going to try to, shoot for that takedown. And if he ends his fight on top, he's going to try to score those final points from the judges. And it's exactly what happened. But, Chaos couldn't defend it. So,
right.
Chaos is a stud, though. I mean, I think this is another one of those fights. One thing I love about Dana is if the judges make a bad call, or if it's a really close fight, he doesn't really say like, oh, you lost, and hold that against. Like, if he thinks somebody got robbed or even performed well in a loss, he still kind of rewards them as though they won a lot of times.
Yeah, he's also very vocal about it too, which I appreciate. I mean, he's gonna call it like he sees it, which is, I love that. But
I do.
Yeah, totally agree. It's tough, man, because I mean, you could see it's first of all, can we just talk about his name is Michelle? It's hilarious. It's like, man, you better be a dominating fighter or someone who can hold their own if you got that name growing up, at least in American culture. But it just seemed like Chaos, just it's just so hard to get a read on him. And I mean, it's anyone who fights him, it's very similar to Wonder Boy, where it's just, kind of unorthodox, that, wide open stance, but he doesn't have the antics, obviously Wonder Boy doesn't have the antics, but it was tough, man. Like I wanted more out of the fight, but I definitely agree. I feel like when they did engage, Chaos was doing a lot more damage.
I don't mean to push us along here, but I definitely have to go soon. Do y'all want to get into some breakouts?
Yeah, let's do this. Well, I mean, there was only 2 more fights on that card. Aldo with the win over Vera looked great. I love Jose Aldo. Right. I hope he's still got some more good fights in him. Thought he looked great. Stephen Thompson looked phenomenal against Jeff Neal. A lot of good matchups available for him. So we'll see what happens in the future of that division. But yes, let's get to the main event here.
So I've got Breakout Star of the year, 2 divisions, male and female, because there was somebody who stuck out to me who I watched her fight live, and I was like, who is this person? Amanda Hebus. She fought 2 times this year. Randa Marcos, 3rd round unanimous decision. That's not that impressive. Then she fights Paige Van Zandt and sends her with her walking papers in a fantastic way. I remember watching that fight and being like, wow, she's overmatched from the start. Like I could see Paige just looked out like a fish out of water.
Overwhelmed, absolutely, yeah. And Amanda is a great marketable athlete, big time future, could be a big star. Absolutely.
I loved the fact that she was like just super positive and bubbly and happy just after a fist fight. It's refreshing and fun to see. Some of them are too like almost, I don't want to say too thankful or like grateful or reflective, like right after the fight. And you're like, man, that's cool and all, but like I want a little bit of fun and cheeriness. And then when you're in the post fight, like the room where the press is there, that's the time to be reflective. I think. So male was Davison Figueiredo. I mean, no one fought more, I don't think, in 2020, other than maybe we were just looking at his fight, Kevin Holland, yeah. But with this, what the words that I put down were with this much on the line. No one fought as many times in 2020 with that on the line. Title shots, vacant title, shots that he missed weight, then comes back and beats Joe Benavidez, who's a no slouch, who's a very good fighter. Beats him in, super convincing fashion. And then obviously we talked about him being in the hospital.
Yeah, beat him twice.
Yeah. And then, I mean, when he made weight the second time, did it even quicker? Like, yeah, just impressive. And then my honorable mention was Chase Hooper in Breakout Stars. Just because I want to see him advance more in the actual fighting. Like the personality, the superstar, it's there, but I want to see him like not take so many shots, something like that. So those are my people, Amanda Hebus and Figueiredo were my folks.
Nice. Can't argue with either one of those. Juan, what do you got for us?
Fight as far as fight of the year?
Breakout Star first. Like breakout of the year.
Breakout of the year for me is probably just going to be Kevin Holland. I'm a huge fan of his. He'd be an interesting guy to hang out with. I feel like he's an absolute character. He's an absolute character, and I love the way he fights. I never mind someone who talks a little shit as long as they can back it up. So yeah, that's for me for sure. He is the breakout artist.
I love that story of him being on the Contender Series and running his mouth so much that Dana was turned off. Yes. And then he ended up being memorable and got his chance. I love Kevin Holland's story. I've got him as my number one for sure. Going from a guy I'd never heard of, 5 wins in 2020, including that impressive KO of Jacare from his freaking butt. Like, who does that, man? I've got Kevin Holland at 1. If you'd asked me 2 months ago, I'd have had Hamzat Chimaev as my number 1, but I've got him at 2 just because he came out and I've never seen somebody go from unknown to popular as quickly as him. So had to give Chimaev a shout out. And then I put Davison at number 3 for Breakout Star, but that's just because I had him at number 1 for Fighter of the Year. So Fighter of the Year for me, I put Davison at number 1 just because, like Matt said, there was so much on the line in those fights. He saved that division. I know a lot of people will give that credit to Cejudo, but Figueiredo looked so impressive. We've never seen a killer like that at 125. I love his attitude. So Fighter of the Year for me after 4 fights, 3 decisive wins, and 1 where he lost a point in a draw. I had trouble with this one. I wanted to put Holland and Chimaev in there as well, but I put Jan at number 2 just because getting that 205 belt, the first male Polish fighter to hold a belt in the UFC, and doing that in such impressive fashion over a guy that was at his peak with Reyes. And then finally I had Izzy at number 3 just because I'm kind of a fanboy. I was going to have him at number 1, honestly, based on the Costa fight. But then I looked at the Romero fight, and with the disappointing style of that, even though I think it was Romero's fault, I didn't have Izzy at number 1 because of that. But that's my top 3 for Fighter of the Year.
I've got Izzy. So from my perspective, just seeing what he did against the people that he did it against, Paulo Costa was just steamrolling people, fought a completely different fight, whether it was like antics or in his head or whatever, who knows. But incredible win there, the way he won. And then, the Romero fight was not very fun to watch. But in terms of fighting big name people in this type of year, kind of going back to like the Davison talk, like 2 title defenses, 2 absolute monsters who are not easy to beat. And I mean, he beat them both pretty easily. Like, I mean, I know that, like I said, the first fight was boring, but it was an easy win. Like overall, what he did, how he did it, he took Yoel out of his game. That's impressive as crap to me.
Still so disappointed in Yoel and the way he approached that fight.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, it takes 2 to tango, but that was definitely hard to watch.
Yeah,
that was embarrassing. Juan, what do you think? Fighter of the Year 2020.
It's got to be Davidson for me. Yeah, for sure. I mean, just like we've all already said. I mean, really, what sums it up for me is the fact that the guy was in the hospital with food poisoning, the night before, and then he comes out and defends the title against a guy who I absolutely love and I think is going to be potentially a superstar in the UFC just because he's such a likable guy with
Moreno, you mean? Yeah, Moreno's definitely got a bright future.
Yeah.
Sweet. I definitely can't disagree there. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. We'll talk Fight of the Year real quick before we let you out. And again, thanks, Matt. Top 3 for me real quick. I'm kind of a victim of recency, but 3, I've got Figueiredo versus Moreno. It's a great fight, start to finish. They went down swinging with their guns ablazing. So got that at number 3. Number 2, this was hard for me, but I've got Hooker versus Poirier. Absolute bloodbath. Just a battle. Love both those guys. Crazy respect for both of them. And then number 1 for me had to be Weili versus Joanna. The greatest women's MMA fight I've ever seen. That's my top 3 for sure.
So it's a tie for me. I cannot pick one. I hate to be like that. I mean, I'll flip a coin if you want me to, but same Davidson and then also the Joanna fight. That one was crazy. I mean, she left looking like some sort of alien from another planet. Like I
Sloth from the Goonies.
Yeah, I felt terrible for her.
That was a tough one.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact that she still stayed in there and just fought such an amazing fight. And then again, I mean, just the recent fight, with Moreno, I can't remember a fight other than the Joanna fight where oh man, that's crazy damage.
I love Joanna, dude. I love her.
Yeah,
she's a gangster.
Yeah, for sure. But every single shot, I was just on my feet, just I mean, the whole time. Yeah, both amazing fights. So that's a tie for me.
Yeah.
I'd have to flip a coin.
I've got Zhang and Joanna as my top fight, and with Moreno and Figueiredo in second.
Okay.
As you kind of mentioned, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but just the excitement of that fight and the back and forth of Zhang and Joanna, just incredible, man. And her not stopping fighting with that, it's wild.
Yeah, that's swelling in the. It's like she
Concerning.
had 2 heads. Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't have wanted to quit either, but like as a coach, you're like, what is that? Is that fluid or I don't know? Yeah.
You were worried it was going to pop at the end. Like, oh my gosh, is her whole face about to burst? Like, what is going on?
Yeah. Is something else going on here? Guys, I hate to run. I literally have an appointment in 10 minutes. I'm probably going to be late too.
Matt, thank you for sacrificing your next client for us,
good.
bro. It was great to catch up with you. I love you. We got to do this again sometime soon, man.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
Happy to be here, fellas. Thank you for having me. And if you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out. We'll cover all the fighting stuff we can. We still have peek ahead to 2021, UFC 257. We got all kinds of exciting stuff. So let me know. It was a pleasure being on here. Thank you, guys.
Awesome.
Once
again,
good luck, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man.
Oh man, that was fun.
Yeah, good stuff. Definitely a different dynamic actually having a real fighter.
I know, right? Rather than me and you just back and forth like a couple of noobs. I was looking at some of these online rankings. Somebody's got Justin Gaethje as fighter of the year. I'm not buying that at all after the way he got mauled by Khabib. Like, maybe if he'd have won that fight.
Yeah, I saw a few of those too, and I was like, what in the world?
This one's got Gilbert Burns at number 2 in that. I toyed with putting him on the list just because of how he went from nothing to so crazy. But I mean, unfortunately with COVID, he lost his opportunity to fight for the belt in this calendar year. So I mean, he didn't really have the chance.
He's going to be an interesting one to see, like what happens, like what happens to Gilbert Burns, you know?
Well, I mean, from what I understand, they're still going to book the Usman fight. I don't know what happened to make that fall out for the short time it did, but I'm hearing February, March for that fight.
Okay.
Gosh, so much fun to wrap up here with Matt and just so many good fights this year. Let's just take a look at what is already scheduled for 2021 real quick. And then we'll call it a day here. But just I can't say this enough. A great time to be an MMA fan, and in particular the UFC here. So coming up, we've got a fight card on January 16th. Looks like the main event is going to be Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar. I'm so excited for that fight. Max, obviously one of the most popular dudes in the sport, but Calvin Kattar, Northeastern dude, absolute brawler, can box, some of the best boxing technique in the game. So that's going to be a really fun. Max seems like more of a volume striker. Calvin's more of a precision, fast twitch, put a hurting on you in a quick second kind of guy. So both strikers, but a different style in striking. Definitely going to be a fun, exciting fight. Looks like there's going to be, I'm skipping the biggest one because I'm going to come back to it. It looks like we've got a card in February that doesn't have much. So, I mean, that's not even really what we're talking about. Stipe versus Ngannou is going to happen sometime at the beginning of the year, but they haven't confirmed it. Colby versus Masvidal hasn't been confirmed, but that's got to be one of the ones that's coming up. I'm looking at this card on the 23rd, the weekend after Holloway Qatar. So it looks like we've got Brad Tavares and Antonio Carlos Jr. That's a good fight. Marina Rodriguez versus Amanda Ribas. So Ribas was supposed to fight Michelle Watterson, and Michelle fell out. So she's getting Rodriguez, who's a really, really talented up-and-comer. So that'll be fun. I'm kind of glad that fight fell through. We had talked about that because Michelle and Amanda are two of my favorites. So I didn't want to see them fight each other. So I'm not mad about Michelle falling out of that one. Another fight that I didn't get a chance to mention that I thought about for honorable mention fight of the year was Angela Hill versus Michelle Watterson. That was a great fight. Did you not like that?
It was a great fight. It was a great fight. Absolutely. I mean, honorable mention. Okay. But
I liked that, Angie came out and she won the early rounds. And then it seemed like Michelle, she had to win 3 through 5 or she was done. And she did. And, she really adapted her striking in that fight. It was one of those fights that went down to the 5th round and the last 10 seconds were just throwing Hail Marys the whole time. So I really enjoyed that battle.
it was good. It was a really good one.
Just another testament to that women's strawweight division, man. The fight on February 13th that I was going to mention is Alexa Grasso versus Macy Barber. That's going to be a good strawweight battle there.
Okay. I see that here now.
I don't know what it is about Macy, but she irritates me. So I'll be rooting for Grasso hard in that one. I love her boxing skills.
Poirier McGregor.
Oh, they're bringing back Jessica I didn't even realize she was awake yet from that hurt and Shevchenko put on her. But yeah, of course, the gem of the year for 2021, January 23rd, Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, number 2.
6 years later, and the tone, the whole vibe of this fight is completely different than the last, which I actually enjoy. Yeah. I actually enjoy, the last one I enjoyed because the antics were hilarious. And I loved seeing the footage where they were in the hotel lobby together. And then, Conor was, he was bickering back and forth with him a little bit. And then the cameras follow Poirier. And he's like, I've never hated someone in my more than my entire life. And then it goes to Conor watching the video of him saying that. And he's getting a kick out of it, classic Conor mind games. A lot of shit talking, and then the way it ended, I was like, ooh, did not look good for Poirier, but both are totally different fighters now. So
completely different fighters. You're talking about guys in their early 20s to grown ass men now. So I definitely think Dustin looks a lot better since he's moved up to 55. As much credit as he gets, I still think he's one of the most underrated fighters around. Just looking at what he did to Eddie Alvarez, what he did to Justin Gaethje, that fight versus Dan Hooker, which was a bad matchup for him, which was a phenomenal, absolute. If there's anybody out there that hasn't watched that fight, Hooker versus Poirier, it is awesome. He's got phenomenal boxing, one of the best boxers at 155, just really clean technique. I think he gave Khabib some of the closest, not that was the most overly competitive fight, but I think he put him in some of the worst positions he's been in. So I said, what I mean is, I know in round 2, Dustin clipped him with a good punch. And so Khabib kind of frantically ended up shooting later in the round. And that's when Dustin, or was it round 3 when Dustin got the guillotine? I think it was round 3 because then he reversed it, ended up getting his back. But either way, Dustin had a really deep guillotine in that fight. That was the closest we've ever seen Khabib to being in a bad situation. So Dustin's got a great BJJ. He's a black belt, great all-around fighter. You could tell I love Dustin, but all of that, like all of his strength, his biggest strengths are Conor's strengths.
Yeah.
So it's as much as I want to say I think Dustin's going to win, it's just not a great matchup for him.
No, it's not. And I mean, who I'm leaning towards, but I also I'm obviously leaning towards McGregor, huge McGregor fan, but I also know, I mean, you got to respect your opponent. He respects him this time. He knows he's gotten better. Poirier is a beast. I'm just excited. It's one of those things where it's like you want your guy to win, but you're like, I don't know, man. It really could go either way. Plus, there's been consistency with Poirier, not as consistent as far as just simply fighting. With Conor, we only got to see him once in 2020. He did look phenomenal, but and that was at 170, right? He was fighting at 170.
Yeah, it was at 170 against Cowboy.
It was at 170, so he's dropping down to 155.
Fun fact: this is only Conor McGregor's third fight at 155 in history, I believe.
He was mainly at 145. Yeah.
Because he beat Aldo, and then he moved up to fight Nate at 170, and then he moved back down to fight Eddie. And I think other than beating Eddie Alvarez, his only other fight at 155 was Khabib.
Well, before he entered the UFC, he won both classes. I believe he won 45 and 55. He won the belts.
Okay. In UFC. Yeah.
In UFC. But anyway, this fight is interesting for a million reasons, but one that sticks out to me, obviously, is the fact that you never know what Conor you're going to get. Or at least as of late, you never know what Conor you're going to get. So we know what we saw against Cowboy. Phenomenal performance. He said the right things. He did the right things. He acted the right way. He looked like he was just mentally just so prepared and ready for that fight. So it'll be really, really interesting to see, especially with this another long layoff here. They said the stat the other day, it was something crazy. It was like 400 plus days or whatever before he, between his last fight and the fight with Cowboy. So it'd be interesting. I mean, here we are, another long stint with, him not fighting. So be interested to see what we get.
Definitely. You could have a concern about him coming in a little bit too overconfident, but I think his lack of fighting helps him combat that. I definitely see Dustin as somebody that Conor respects, even though he's beat him in the past. He's seen what he's done lately. I think that's why he took the fight, because he thought Dustin deserved it. Just on a, personally, I definitely think they are the best two at 155 outside of the Beeb. So I was really, really happy that they made this fight. I was a little bit worried that they were going to go in another direction. So I think that's your clear cut. If Beeb doesn't come back, that's your champ. If he does, I mean, we could be looking at a rematch of the biggest fight in UFC history in 2021. We'll see how it all goes down, but I mean, the cards are set up in a way to where that's the way they might fall, man.
Yeah.
Imagine if we got Beeb, Conor too, and Jones versus Izzy in 2021. Cool.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, what's going to be crazy too is you already know, and Conor's been pushing for it a lot. If there's Khabib versus Conor 2, it's going to be in Las Vegas Raiders Stadium, and they're going to sell that son of a bitch out. They're going to sell a ridiculous amount of tickets. I mean, Conor's been calling for it. The Vegas weather will be permit the fight to be able to go down.
Hopefully we've got fans back in the seats at some point, spring, early summer next year. I'm feeling a little bit more positive than I have been since we've got multiple vaccines rolling out. So, I mean, it's not going to be next month, but there's definitely light at the end of the tunnel. So I think we're in the last few months here of survival mode, and we'll see sports world get a little bit more normal the next summer. I hopefully.
Yeah, let's hope. I know it's I've kind of felt the same way as of late. What really did it for me was watching college football yesterday and seeing, tens of thousands of fans in the stands for these conference championships. And, looking back at, for instance, like the Notre Dame Clemson game at Notre Dame Stadium, there were no cases after they stormed the field, and seeing in the end zone.
It was yesterday. How do you know there's no cases?
No. The first game at Notre Dame Stadium.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah, the first game, yeah, there were no cases, but then also like looking back at highlights of that first one, there was no distancing like in the end zones. Like the students, like it was a student section. They were shoulder to shoulder. Most people had masks on, yes, but I mean they were shoulder to shoulder. So that definitely, gives me a little hope, but not a lot.
Well,
Just a
either
little.
way, I mean, it's a great, I've said this a million times. It's a great time to be a fan of the sport. It's one of the fastest growing global phenomenons around. I think the NBA is also doing a good job with their global footprint, but I definitely, if you're looking at a chart with boxing and MMA popularity, I mean, now's the time to get on board with MMA and become a fan.
Yeah.
There, it's only going to get bigger from here. A lot of great up and coming stars in the sport, and that's just going to continue to keep growing with that pool of talent. Yeah, man, just great 2020. Looking forward to a great 2021. Yeah, that's all I got. Anything else from you, big man?
No, that's about it. Yeah. Same for me. If you're not on board with the UFC and you like a very entertaining sport, very, very fast and entertaining sport, jump on board for sure. What a year for the UFC in the midst of a global pandemic, what they pulled off. I feel like, Dana White should receive as much recognition as possible for what he and the UFC, their team, their production, their medical staff, everybody. I mean, what they were able to pull off and to go overseas. I mean, we literally had Fight Island this year. That's crazy to me. They went to Abu Dhabi. I mean, if you've listened to any of what Dana White said, he can't say it enough how amazing they were and their staff and just the way that they executed the production, the safety precautions, everything. So in the midst of a global pandemic, soaring to the top was the UFC, which I couldn't be happier about that because I absolutely love the sport. So yeah, hopefully fans in the stands for 2021 and we get some normalcy back and we'll get some amazing fights next year.
Absolutely. Thanks again to Matt Metz.
Yes, thank
great
you,
to
Matt.
see you, man. Definitely need to bring you back on. Let us know what you think in the comments. Thanks again, everybody. Give us a share, like, subscribe. Let's do this. We'll see you next time.
Aliens are real.